All around was desert. The buildings were half destroyed and covered with sand. In this strange place woke up the hero, who did not understand anything. He looked up and was addressed by a system notification that advised him not to look at the sky. The system also said that the temperature of this place was 60 degrees, and it was rising every minute. The hero began to rise to the system's taunts about smelling like fried meat. He got up and there were burns on his back that the system noticed. The hero still had only one question on his mind: how he ended up in this place. The system, though, tried to get through to the guy. He just kept ignoring it. The hero paid attention to the building, and the system explained that this public restroom was over 700 years old. The hero turned his attention to the toilet, in which a medium mutation fallen man was hiding. The system pointed to the road, on which the hero will fall from dehydration and die. The system also told about two fallen hiding near them. The hero received information about everything he looked at from the system. The hero thought that if the three directions were deadly, he would only have to. Before he could think about it, the system told him that the answer was correct, and that there was indeed water in that direction. The hero continued to ignore the system's words that they were off topic. The system said that 3 girls were injured and most couldn't use the traditional skill. The guy noticed he was shackled, even assumed he was the culprit here. At first glance it looks like shackles, but it's actually a device for the aristocrats of the 4th floor to track the slaves. The system continued to give its advice, and the hero pondered many things. The hero knew that he would not last long, but he could only hope that along the way he would find a source of water. The guy was also very worried that he was being followed. He looked up into the sky, thinking about who was following him and why. At that time people were watching what was going on and complaining that the guy was still alive. One of the female visitors complained that he couldn't be so awake in the blue door, as it was the hottest place to be. People complained, and the girl sat there and just listened. She watched carefully to see how the hero behaved. The aristocrats were angry that the guy was too calm. The hero kept walking and counting the seconds that were going by. As he walked he pondered what he had learned. There is a no that is on the 4th floor level, if so the higher the better. The hero immediately assumed that he was participating in a survival gamble. The guy was very curious. 3,000 seconds had passed, meaning the temperature had now risen to 70 degrees. Now he needed to find shade, as the efficiency would get worse. The hero turned his attention to an iron device from which water was dripping. The system began to praise itself, and that without it the guy would have died. The hero touched the water and was very surprised, as with the heat of 70 degrees the water was just ice cold. The hero decided to go down into the sewer, as the temperature there should be lower. The guy realized that if there is a water supply here, then the entrance to the sewer must be somewhere. The hero's guesses were confirmed, and he found a hatch. The system congratulated the guy on his find. The hero realized that it was only temporary, as he would not be able to last long. The guy realized that the only way to finish the game was to return to the tower. The hero didn't know if the handcuffs transmitted sound, so he decided to do the right thing and show the aristocrats his intentions. He stretched his hands up and showed them all an obscene gesture. Seeing this on their monitors, the aristocrats were outraged. Some were angry and said that the whole thing was staged. Many demanded the death of the hero. At that time, a girl was on the phone and was told that the hero would definitely be killed. They also checked, and he definitely has no talents. The girl said in a gruff voice that she hoped she didn't have to be told what to do. At that time in the suburbs, the butler hung up the phone and wiped the sweat from his forehead that came from the excitement. The butler ordered the men to pretend to be fallen and eliminate the goods. Before the man left, the butler asked his level. He said that he was a 755 steel general with a level 2 level 4 stage accompanying power. The butler said that although it wasn't bad, the fallen in the blue zone were very strong, so he should control his emotions. The butler explained that monsters only need to smell any negative emotions to attack. Even if the knight died, he had to take the hero with him to the grave. The man understood the order and went to fulfill it. The protagonist passed. The boy was beaten by a crowd of people. They were surprised that the hero did not react to it. They seemed to hate the boy, calling him a demon, as he felt no emotion. For some reason the hero was different from normal people. Even after his father died, he felt nothing. People behind his back discussed how horrible it was. The cops were discussing the genius who could solve a case that lasted 10 years in just a week. The cops joked about how only a freak could catch another freak. The cops surrounded the criminal and ordered him to put his gun on the ground. He was very scared and on emotion pulled the trigger, and a shot was fired. The bullet went straight through the hero, piercing his heart. The police were able to capture the offender, and the protagonist fell to the ground and died. Finally, the guy was able to afford to wash his face. He looked at the water, and for a moment, he thought he saw his reflection. But now he looked completely different. The system joked that the slave's face was a 9 out of 10. The system offered to interact with the hero, but he was not interested. The guy asked whether the system controls everything or not. The system advised the hero to run. The protagonist noticed that something was approaching him. He was going to meet a new guest. The system called the guy insane, and he asked if he pretended to shave would it count. In the end, the system couldn't give an answer. Footsteps were heard, and a smile appeared on the protagonist's face. The man he'd been waiting for was coming. The system told him that the enemy had a talent level of 755. It estimated the enemy's strength as elite. The system warned that the enemy would easily cut off the protagonist's head. The guy continued to listen and think. From the sound, the hero realized that the enemy is about 10 meters away from him, and because of the structure of the sewers, it will be very difficult for him to kill him. The system said that there was no need to think about anything since the guy was dead anyway. The hero said hello to his enemy. He immediately became wary. The hero noticed that the enemy reacts very slowly to his voice. The enemy started to move, and the hero assumed he was wondering how he knew about his abilities. He continued to gag the enemy, who didn't comply with a single word. The hero said that a normal slave wouldn't have been able to survive here, and kept talking about how the enemy was innocent since he thought it was a simple task. The protagonist asked if the enemy was sure this wasn't part of the plan. He suggested a show where the lowly slave not only didn't die, but he's mocking everyone. The hero said it was about time the boss sent the man away. The protagonist came out of his hiding place and said that the enemy would not only not kill him, but would stay here forever. He said he would step on the corpse of the enemy and continue to taunt the aristocrats. The hero asked if the enemy was ready to accept his last duel. The guy lowered his finger, and the empty one that was above his head headed towards the enemy. The one in a very short period of time had already clawed his way into man's body. The hero watched an empty man eat a man alive before his eyes. At the end, the enemy began to beg for mercy, but no one helped him. The system was surprised and congratulated the guy for doing well. The hero went to the water and said out loud that he felt sorry for the clear water. The system said that he shouldn't get so close, as at that distance all it takes is a small display of negative emotions for a fallen man. The hero told the system to forget, as he is a positive boy and does not cause negative emotions. The system prompted the boy to grope the body. The protagonist managed to get an incomprehensible thing. The system called it a black and gold legend. The system explained that it is a return device. Just twist it, and the guy can get where he wants to go. The hero did as the system said, and it started the evaluation. It said that the rookie was not bad, and the shackles that restrained the guy's hands fell off. The hero sincerely hoped that it would be more interesting inside the tower. In the external intelligence core of the headquarters, 7-man was reporting information. He only knew that the guy's name was Bai Wu. He was about 18, 19 years old and male. This was the whole report. After the captain of the 7-unit heard this, he was furious. But the captain of 13 Division was amused. The subordinate complained that not only was the captured man not interrogable, but it felt as if he was the one doing the interrogating, not them. The captain laughed from his acquaintance's command, as this bravla sounded ridiculous. The man asked what the man was asking. The answer was simple. He was asking about the number of floors in the tower, and how the fallen appeared. The guy was asking about things that even a 3-year-old child would know in this world. The captain of Unit 13 got hot. He wanted to take the kid for himself. The other captain said he'd probably be wasting his time. The man suggested that he just liked the kid and didn't want to give him up. The commander said that the number of missing persons had increased recently. The other, however, asked why the guy was interfering since it was not part of his obligation. He could not understand why the gentlemen were worried about the common people. He told about the gambling house, and the second commander immediately fell silent, as the nobles were again entertaining themselves with Hunger Games. He said that the people were placed in the blue zone. The man was immediately surprised, as the guys were really crazy if they decided to put people in the 4th zone. He also told about how the white zone no longer entertained them. The commander told about the hero, who not only survived 2 hours there, but also managed to kill the assassin sent for his head. Then the commander received an anonymous call from a girl. The other commander didn't understand why it wasn't handled by the Straitjacket Corps. The girl's goal was to bypass the croupier and save Bai Wu. The other commander immediately realized that he was the one being talked about from the beginning. The commander asked the captain to personally participate in the interrogation. He stood up and said that he was thinking about it too. Later, the captain thought that the hero could make a great weapon. 500 years ago, the world came to an end. The world changed. Monsters called the Fallen began to appear. Humanity almost died out. At this time there was a tower. No one knew where it came from, but only inside people were able to survive. After a while, people discovered a power that they could use to resist the Fallen. At that time in the interrogation room, a guy explained that the accompanying power increases all the abilities of a person. To become stronger, one must get out of the tower, and the more time one stays out, the stronger one becomes. Even items outside the tower become better. Such items are called Jilin. There was also a talent that was a superpower. Now there are just over 1,000 talents. The higher the talent, the rarer and stronger it is. Most have 1,000 to 700 talents, and those with 500 and above can become core members. The guy started talking excitedly about Wuji, who had survived 24 days alone in the blue zone. Even the members of the Death Corps had asked him to join. The man also said that the halls are 5-story structures. Only aristocrats live there. The hero realized that in this world, people who leave the tower are encouraged. It was immediately explained to the protagonist that the survival rate outside the tower is so low that no one wants to leave. The girl explained that Wujio has reached level 8, so as soon as he sees a fallen man he instantly destroys him. Another leader entered the interrogation room. He told the others to get out while he talks to the protagonist. The main character didn't react at all. Before leaving, the guys told the man to take his time. The commander made a serious face and offered to get right to the point, but the hero interrupted him by saying he was ready to join them, and the man's face twisted. He was incredibly surprised, as he couldn't understand how the guy had guessed. The hero said he would stay here and not join the man's team. The man wanted to know how the guy knew everything. The protagonist began to explain his speculations. He thought that after the interrogation, he should have tried to recruit him. But the man came, and from the reaction of the others it was clear that he was from another corps. The protagonist also said that the man's shield was broken, and the man asked him to tell how he knew. The protagonist said that he was able to figure it out from the scar. The hero explained that with a man's strength, only a fallen man could leave such a scar. The hero told more and more information about the man that made him a little worried. He even forgot for a moment why he had come. The hero told even more, and the man realized that the guy was a real talent. The hero asked for a full talent chart, since he hadn't seen a full one. The man instantly went off to get the chart. He ran with all his might as he wanted to recruit the hero incredibly badly. The man came back and put the papers on the table. He was incredibly tired as he ran. The hero said he had lost his memory, so he didn't know anything about the tower. The man said that didn't seem to be true. The protagonist flipped through the papers and said his captors could have forcibly erased his memory. The man said that Wujio has the strongest talent of the lower floors. Talent number 256, Ultimate Shadow. The hero inquired about the top 100 talents, and the man talked about that 76 Absolute Dissolution. It was said that such a talent was awakened by a miner who didn't just win the lottery itself and went straight to heaven. The main character suggested that the guy had a hard time. The man suggested that the guy was taken by the higher floors. The hero heard that the case wasn't even investigated. The hero turned to the top 24. This talent was called Prize Eye. The hero assumed that the talent was very cool and ranked high. The hero was worried about the hidden side of his personality. The protagonist couldn't understand why his body was so special. The hero asked if talent could be forcibly measured, and the answer was no. The man said that many people have talents that are hidden and do not manifest themselves in any way. The hero asked if a person can have several talents. The man said that in general there is only one talent, but on the higher floors they say that it is possible to awaken more talents. But in order to do that you have to kill a fallen so strong that it's not worth it. The hero was thinking about how he could unlock another talent, since his is not a combat talent. The man got up from the table and walked up to the hero. He was all fired up and asked how the guy was looking at making a deal. The hero poked the man in the belly with the papers and said that although the man is a good man, he chooses Division 7. In response to the man's questions, the hero explained that he had learned that Unit 7 was the unit most likely to go outside the tower. The man continued to persuade the guy, promising a lot of interesting things. When the hero asked if the man was married, the man started crying, as the protagonist was able to find out even that. The hero said that you should choose the one who likes you. That's why he shouldn't waste his time, as the first impression was caused by 7 units. The man was very upset, and the hero finished him off by saying that the 13th number is unlucky. The commander's screams were heard outside the door. A little while later an elevator was coming. Inside was the hero, the captain of the 7th unit, and a few other guys. The commander explained that although Bai Wu didn't have an ID card, but since he had joined them, he was at least a low-ranking civilian. He also said that they had found a place for the hero to live, but he had to pay 400 TS a month for it himself. The system said that the person who was the commander was actually very strong. The commander introduced himself as Gu Qingyu, and the system hinted that this person was hiding something that interested people on the 6th floor. The hero approached the commander and introduced himself as Wujio. The commander looked angrily at his subordinates, and the hero asked to fulfill one request of his. The commander assumed what the hero would say, so he said he could join the interrogation team. To the man's surprise, the protagonist asked to leave the tower tomorrow. The commander said they had checked the hero's accompanying spreadsheet, and he had gone from level 1 to level 3. The commander explained that at that level the hero would wash up. The protagonist, on the other hand, said he didn't need to worry about him. He explained that he wasn't looking for death, and he assumed that the commander didn't want him to stay in the tower either. Qingyu agreed and said that they would leave tomorrow at 10 a.m., and they would head to the white zone. The hero asked what was in the blue zone. The elevator arrived. The commander showed the place where the hero will now live. the area under the first floor of the tower Jinlu Port. The guys apologized for keeping you waiting and said that the captain was handling the formalities. One of the guys said he's about to show where the main character will live. The guys said that if the hero liked something on the way they would buy it with the money the captain had allocated. The guys were walking, and the guy was giving the hero a tour. The guys noticed a commercial where the man was advertising a shovel that could be incredibly helpful outside the tower. The man from the advertisement was saying that it only costs 998 tans, and if people save up now, there will be a discount of as much as 300 tans. The girl who was next to the hero didn't understand why people were posing as members of their unit. The girl began to angrily go to report to the captain that he would deal with the charlatan. The guy didn't want to let the girl go, and the hero said he was going after her. He said that you can't let the girl do whatever she thinks. The guy left and gave the hero a bag of money. The protagonist was glad. He went to the store, and the system told him it was an interesting place. Half an hour later, the hero was already near the entrance to the apartment. He opened the doors and went inside. On the table, he saw a suitcase with a note that said that there were basic things inside. The system told him that the thing inside was capable of measuring negative emotions, and when they reached 75 an alarm would be triggered. When the alarm goes off, everyone without exception must use the teleportation disc. The system said that this is a very good mechanism to keep life outside the tower. The system laughed as this thing was completely useless to the hero. Also in the suitcase were tranquilizers that suppressed emotions. The system explained that they would help to get rid of the fallen for a while. The downside of this drug was that after 5 minutes, the emotions intensify. The hero began injecting himself with the drug. The system assumed that the protagonist wanted to experience negative emotions very badly. The protagonist looked at one point and waited. 5 minutes passed. Even after such a time, the protagonist felt nothing. He didn't expect much, but no effect. The next day, he could see a place to get out of the tower. The system explained that the pillars were designed to pass through space, but really they were to stop the guys from the upper floors. When the hero was interested, the system told him not to think about it too much. For their sake, it was better to pretend as if they didn't know anything. At that time, the other members of the squad arrived on the scene. The commander introduced the other recruits. One man introduced himself as Wang Shi. The system rated him as a spoiled brat. The hero said it was his first time out, and the man continued to dialogue. A girl asked the protagonist to keep his feet off the ground. The system explained that the girl was from the second floor. The hero said that the sis looked good and provoked her. One guy introduced himself as Shang Shui, and the system called him another freak, since in battle this guy is the craziest of the guys. Bai Wu extended his hand to say hello. The girl pushed the guy and gave her hand to the hero. She introduced herself as Yin Shuang. System first raved about the girl and said that she too had the secrets of the 6th floor hidden in her. The hero was very interested in what those secrets were. The protagonist asked where one more person was, since there were supposed to be 6 of them. The commander approached the hero and told him that he was dead and advised the guy to think of himself. The protagonist concluded that all, without exception, members of the group are real villains. The commander said it was time for them to leave. At this point, it was announced that one team was returning to the tower. People began to appear and confirmed the safe return of the team. The hero realized that the world behind the tower is random, and the scout team exists so that people can take about the place where they are going. The man announced that the next group was coming. The captain arrived and walked to the entrance. He held out his hand, and a light began to appear around him. A little while later, the guy's body also began to glow, and he told the team to approach. The team followed the captain. The girl told the hero to check his watch and tranquilizer. The girl explained that as soon as they entered the portal, a number would be generated. The hero said he understood and thanked the girl. His attention was caught by the fact that the numbers were already 6 digits, which only meant that people had explored the outside world more than 1,000,000 times. The protagonist began to dissolve into thin air. He was looking forward to this journey. A flash appeared before his eyes. The team found themselves in an unknown place. It was evening outside. The girl asked if it was a psychiatric hospital. The system began to talk about how dangerous this place is, and that she would not want the hero to go there. But there are things that only the protagonist can explore. The man was surprised at the strange name of the mental hospital. The guy said that the number of fallen people made him a little scared. The system laughed as the guy's bracelet showed that he couldn't feel anything. The commander investigated the place. He said it was a normal temperature, about 46 degrees. The system laughed at the fact that the comrades thought 46 degrees was a normal temperature. There were no herbs or minerals around the team. They were very far away from the town, and all that was visible around was the road and trees. The man lit up and suggested that the allies go inside and see what was inside the hospital. The hero told the guys to be careful and take their time. The girl got angry and called the hero a coward. The group commander told the guys to calm down and went in first. He opened the gate and watched carefully what was going on. Nothing happened, and the team entered the territory of the treatment center. There were 4 buildings on the site, each with 19 floors. The hero pointed to one building and began to explain. Only one building out of all of them had an entrance. He explained that it was necessary to go to the top and against to other buildings through the air corridor. The man was surprised at such discretion, and the girl recognized that the hero was useful. The protagonist wondered why do such a thing. There must be a point to such things. The shy guy told the captain that he sensed 17 evil spirits in the building. The system laughed that the guy was playing a role, and the commander told everyone to be on guard and notified the guys that they were entering the first building. The commander opened the doors, and a rather creepy sight appeared before the group. Looking around, the guys realized that this hospital had been abandoned a long time ago. The hero paid attention to the walls, which were stained with blood. After a bit of thought, the main character realized that the bloodstains on the wall were left recently. The hero asked the system, and it got angry because it can't know anything. It's not a mental patient. All the information the system could give was that the bloodstains were left 2 days ago. The man turned to the captain and said that he found a lot of rooms. The commander asked the opinion of the hero. He began to explain that the number of rooms is huge, and although there is a chance to get information, but the most hidden secret should be in the 4th building. The protagonist decided to explain everything one last time. In the future he intends to just talk. The commander asked the protagonist to continue his explanation. He said that among the 4 hulls there is only one convergence on the first hull. The protagonist explained that it would take an incredibly long time to get from the 4th building to the first one, so the patient would easily die. The protagonist said that this place is more like a prison than a hospital. The guy said that there was only one way in, so there was only one way out. Since it was a prison, the 4th building was the most secret place in the hospital. The guy pointed straight ahead and called the captain. He said the elevator was going by itself. The captain ordered everyone to stay alert and prepare for battle. The man, on the other hand, was glad that they wouldn't have to take the stairs. The hero asked why the buildings hadn't collapsed yet, even though it had been 700 years since anyone had lived in them. The captain explained that the rules outside the tower are very strange. Even the space itself changes. The hero thought about the fact that there are more and more mysteries, and it seems that the phenomenon that people can't explain is called a rule. The elevator went down to the 1st floor. The whole team went on alert. The dessert began to open, and a terrible sound was heard. From a gap in the door, a monster was looking at them. It came out and started making inhuman sounds. The enemy immediately went on the attack and hit the captain, but the man grabbed his weapon and stood in a stand in one very precise movement, attacked the monster, and cut off his head. The hero watched a similar blow. The head rested and ended up right near the main character's feet. The weapon is level 19D. It lowers the defense of the fallen and hits their weak points. It's a good weapon, but a lot depends on the wielder. The captain said it was time for them to head to the 19th floor. The hero thought about the fact that the captain had been outside the tower for 24 days. He walked up to the monster's head and began to examine it in detail. The hero began to assess the fallen man's condition and what had changed in his body. The system confirmed the hero's guesses and yelled at him for undressing the monster. The protagonist scrutinized the corpse of the monster. The guy managed to find some kind of note, and the system congratulated him for it. The hero rubbed the paper a bit, and upon opening it realized that it was a diary. The hero realized that the paper was tried to hide the sick man when the diary was taken away from him. The date on the note was the year 2026, and it was now the year 704 of the Tower era. The hero couldn't understand how these things were still intact after 700 years. The other team members were waiting for the hero and shouted for him to come soon. The main character came in and asked that they go to the 11th floor. The hero talked about the paper, and that the 11th floor has strong fallen and it's a good opportunity to practice. The guy clicked on the 11th floor. The girl was very angry that he was making decisions by himself, and the hero advised the girl to be careful. There was a sound of laughter. The guy smiled and asked if the others heard it. The elevator arrived on the 11th floor, and the team started to get out of it. Ahead of them was an empty hallway, from which came a voice asking if the guys wanted to play with him. The guys managed to identify the source of the sound, which was the last room. The hero noticed that the voice sounded like that of a little girl or an adult. It seemed as if both were intertwined. From the ceiling began to drip some grease. The girl noticed that part of it got on her shoulder. Then the man's laughter began to intensify, and the building seemed to shake. The commander told the guys to be careful and stay calm. Hands started to appear from above and headed towards the team. The system thought that someone had gotten emotional and attracted the monster's attention. One guy who fought off the hands of the index of negative emotions reached 11, and the man who was so eager to fight this index reached 9. But the guy who played a frightened man index was only 7. The girl who was not badly treated the hero had a high index, as much as 21. The commander instantly burst from his seat. He was in front of the hands, and with a precise sword movement, he chopped them all down. He told everyone to act faster, while he himself only had a negative emotion score of 3. The system praised the team captain, while the hero yawned as he was bored. The hero's score remained at 0. The team fought the monster. The guys fought the enemy with all their might, while the hero was not touched. The girl was very that fought and was angry at the hero. She didn't understand why the protagonist wasn't being attacked. The guy said he wanted to sleep, probably because of the little girl's voice. The guys were surprised that the hero's number is still 0. The protagonist said he would go on a reconnaissance mission. The commander asked the hero to wait, as they planned to make quick work of it. The protagonist explained that until the guy's condition calms down, the tentacles will continue to appear. The protagonist said he would go look for the source, and if the guys calmed down, let them find it. The man asked where the captain could find such a freak. The captain said that if the value does not send a 1-digit number, then he is brave, but if 0, then it is either with the device something wrong or with the hero. At the time, the protagonist was walking through the clinic. The system turned to the guy and told him to look. The hero looked over there and saw a dog enclosure. The system said that the poor thing couldn't get out of there until it was released. The hero noticed a half-broken chain. The hero almost stepped on a syringe, and the system told him to be careful. The system explained that they might have sedative residue in them. The hero noticed one thing. The system said there was nothing there, but the guy was interested. The system said that the documents were destroyed and the owner was gone. The hero went to the table where the system told him that he had a choice of 3 items: talent, friendship with the poor guy, and hate with the poor guy. The hero reached for the item that gave talent. The system advised him to think about the decision. There were only obscure words in the journal. The key could be a shortcut, but nothing was clear. The hero thought that the archive should store a lot of useful things. The guy was worried that there were no clues for the ridge. The system said that the hero was a collector. The guy sighed and looked up, nostalgic for his past life. The system compared this choice to a lottery, where you can win a talent, or friendship with a monster, or get its hatred. At that time, the guys ended up with hands from the ceiling. He looked at his stats, which had dropped. The commander said that they were heading out to look for Bai Wu. The hero kept thinking. The hero was sure that the 2 rooms at the end were the lab. The test subjects were kept in the rooms and were observed injecting something with a syringe. The hero assumed that someone had visited the test subjects during the experiment, but he didn't have hatred at that time. There was a guy knocking on the door and asking the hero about how the research was going. They didn't understand why the door was still locked. The hero probably found a solution. The guy assumed that that person had never met the monster girl before turning into a fallen man. She definitely had a friend who didn't want the girl to be transferred to the second building, but she was. The hero concluded that the fallen in other rooms are stronger than in the past. At least they have more hatred and resentment. The guy was breaking into the hero's room and was very angry that the doors wouldn't open. He started yanking the handle hysterically, but it was having no effect. The guy was ready to kick the door, but the commander advised him to take care of his legs. Hands appeared from the floor. The commander reacted in time and protected his subordinate. The guy shouted that the hands kept coming. Darkness surrounded the team. At that time, the hero had figured out the diary and the key, but could not understand what the comb meant. The hero couldn't understand who would use the comb in this situation. The hero asked if the system knew, but the system could not give an answer. The hero looked at the comb and then at his watch, which was still at 0. At that time, the number 72 was already on the girl's hands. She was attacked by the hands and fought back. One of the hands almost nailed the woman, but a man intervened in time to save her. The fallen one was closing in on the guys, and everyone could feel it. The guy assumed that the hero in the room had met the fallen one. The mad guy was overjoyed. While the commander was serious, he said he was going to clear the way, got into a stance, and started advancing swiftly forward, chopping everything in his path. Suddenly, the door handle moved. After that, the monster's hands disappeared. The hero came out of the room. The guy complained that since the protagonist was not dead, he could at least make a sound. The guy apologized by wiggling his hairbrush and said that it was time for them to head to the next floor. The guy was very angry and headed towards the hero. He started asking why the hero wasn't answering them. Another guy asked why cluelessness disappeared. The hero was asked if he had dealt with the fallen, and the hero said he had only temporarily suppressed the source. The commander thought about what the hero said. The protagonist was directing everyone to the 19th floor. The boy called him an asshole, and the man told everyone to calm down. The boy said he didn't have time to play. The girl stood there and calmed herself down. Her score dropped to 11. While the guys were riding in the elevator, the hero asked the commander if the fallen had been human before. The protagonist asked if they would become fallen if they stayed out of the tower for too long. There was an awkward silence. A little while later, the commander asked if the hero had studied the clock. The hero knows that at a value of 75 the clock starts to alarm, and the maximum value is 300. The commander explained that the light of the clock up to 75 remains green, after 75 it is orange, but when the value reaches above 175 it becomes red. That's when the dialogue was interrupted as they reached the 19th floor. The commander said they had to go. The system joked that because of the protagonist's questions, he was being ignored by everyone. The protagonist had already figured it out. If the mark turns red, then the person becomes fallen. On the top floor, all the windows were closed, and it was dark. The commander ordered the boys to turn on the lights and explore around. The boys said that there were about 6 fallen behind the door, and their level was higher than the one the captain killed. The boy wanted to say something, but the captain ordered him to wait for orders. He drew his sword and headed in that direction where the fallen were already waiting for him. He was not alone, and everyone was looking at him. The hero asked if the captain is always like this. It turns out that the captain is always raring to go. The captain was already near the monsters, and when one of them attacked him, he made a precise strike right on target. The system praised the man's speed, but the hero was interested in the fact that the accompanying force develops different sides. The man explained that they develop the same, but each time bonus abilities are given that improve the strengths. The man said that the hero would figure it out when he got to stage 2. The system explained that it was as simple as a computer game. For example, the man downloaded attack and health. Lin Wuxia downloaded half attack and half speed, but Shang Xiaoyi downloaded perception and attack. The system couldn't detect what Ying Shuang had downloaded. The system started to say that the team was all lunatics, and the hero only smiled stupidly. At that time, the captain stood and said that everything was ready, and the group could move on. A level 3 fallen, whose sickle shreds metal, the system said that when the director was eaten by these monsters, only listen to the poor guy. The hero assumed that the 6 monsters killed were from the second block. The protagonist asked the captain to stop. The guy suggested staying a bit in the first block. Still, their power would grow. The guy called the hero a complete novice, as the world was rejecting them, and every 4 hours the interference was increasing. The protagonist asked what these disturbances are. It turns out that the longer they stay here, the more their stats drop, and every time they leave the tower the interference is random. The hero realized that every 4 hours people get a debuff, so they will not be able to just sit still. The system called the commander very strong because he had lived 24 days, which gave him 100 debuffs. The system gave the hero a hint, namely that they should study the second building well to find the key, otherwise they will not go any further. The system also told the hero that the key had been absorbed by a strange thing. The system advised the hero to use the comb, because in this case he will get more rewards. The enemy was already watching the men, and said to himself that it was time to see them in his arena. The captain had a light on his hand. It became dark, and after a while the captain had a flashlight in his hand. The system was surprised that the commander had this lantern. He had Jilin level 4D, which meant that he had been out of the tower for 4 days. The commander and the protagonist walked forward. The girl behind them said that they might not explore everything but just move forward. The protagonist said that the girl's assumption was correct, but they needed to find the key that was here. The man asked how the hero knew about the key. At that time, the commander came to the door and said that they need to follow the rule that the location would not be destroyed. The commander explained that the rules outside the world can be strange, although usually the location can be destroyed, but when it comes to locations with a key, they can't be destroyed. The system started laughing and talking about how it was familiar with this. A subordinate yelled that the elevator button wasn't working. Turns out the elevator was fake. The system asked the hero to pay attention to the sign above the elevator, and said that it was not 19, but 0, and the floor below was a minus floor. The system explained that the hero's destination was at the bottom of hell. The guys have to go down the stairs floor by floor. They walked down the stairs, but at one point it disappeared. The commander explained that in order to go down on each floor you have to go through a corridor. One of the group noticed that they were on the minus first floor. He also noticed that there was no light, and if it were not for the captain's lamp, it would be total darkness. The man noticed that the lower they went down, the more corpses of the fallen. As they walked, they noticed that there were no whole corpses. All the fallen were torn up. One of the boys had a feeling that some terrible experiments had been conducted here. The boy said that the farther they went, the more he felt the fallen. He said it was the first time he had ever felt such a thing, and he was scared, which was a lie. The man said the target most likely felt them too. At one point the hero stopped and the others wondered why. A notification popped up in the hero's mind. It said about a camera, and the hero reached into his bag for one thing. The girl asked what he was looking for, and the hero showed the camera from the bag. The other guy started to explain that not all things are capable of becoming Jilin, so carrying all things is silly. The hero smiled and looked at the place that beckoned him. The hero kept getting notifications, and he pointed his camera and took a picture. The man was surprised that the camera was working, and the girl said it wouldn't help them in any way. The hero said that this camera was taking pictures from the past. In the picture, he saw a girl who was in chains. The commander asked if it was possible to recognize anything from the photo that was taken. The hero asked if high-level fallen have a mind. The commander explained that it is rare to even retain speech, but when the fallen evolve, they can have a mind. The hero was interested in this information. He said that the child in the photo is a guardian. They have not met with fallen of this level yet. A huge spider appeared in front of the guys. The captain immediately became wary and grabbed his weapon. He ordered the boys to prepare for battle and struck at the fallen. Much to the man's surprise, the enemy was able to dodge. The fallen one started laughing and welcomed the guys into his arena. She said she wanted to keep the guys well entertained. The captain was handing out instructions as the spider attacked the floor and it began to crumble. The hero was unlucky and failed. The system said it was over as the guy didn't have any combat abilities yet. The commander jumped after him and told the main character to grab his arm. The guy managed to grab the commander's arm. Other members of the team in front of him were in a dangerous situation for the guys, but the two fell down together. The system started talking to the hero and asking him to wake up. The guy woke up and was a little hurt. The system yelled at the hero, because if he didn't wake up he would die. The guys plopped down on the lowest floor of the building. The commander showed the hero one place and said that there were at least 10 fallen of different kinds fighting there. The system explained that the captain was really smart. The hero began to think about the situation, but the system warned him to watch his head, as the ceiling was decrepit. The hero looked up and saw a piece of the ceiling falling down. The commander said that the building was not as strong as it seemed at first glance. The object that fell was the door of the upper floor. The hero saw a notice that the enemy can control others, and if they can't catch him, he will swallow the key. The hero thought that the outcome of the battle was clear since the enemy had revealed himself so easily. The hero thought about the camera transmitting information from the past. The protagonist decided to take stock. According to the diary, all the events here took place in 2026, when there was no tower yet. A lot of people don't know the history before the tower. This building is a prison and at the same time an arena where the fallen fight, and the strongest of them remains, who has the right to move on. The protagonist already had a hunch about this place. He saw windows that spoke of memories from each floor. On each floor he saw memories. In one of them, the protagonist heard a thought that said that this creature wanted to become the strongest and destroy the tower. It wasn't until the 14th floor that the creature lost and was furious. The hero pondered that the turning point happened on the 14th floor. The hero inquired about the poor thing being transferred from the first building to the second building. The protagonist realized that the hospital was trying to create the perfect monster, but the path of that monster was interrupted by the poor girl transferred from the first building. The boss of the first core defeated the boss of the second core. The hero thought about the fact that on the 15th floor, the poor thing was very fast because the walls were not damaged. The monster decided to eat more than the others and defeat the poor thing, but even so he failed, after which all his self-confidence disappeared. The hero realized that the enemy not only failed to defeat the poor thing, but also failed his teacher. The hero told the captain that he understood the meaning of the number 12, namely the number of the fallen man they met on the upper floors and saw in the photo. The hero said that this hospital was where the fallen were created and forced to eat the drudge. There were at least 12 fallen created in this place. The captain said it was too bad, since the others would not be able to handle a high-level fallen. They decided to look for a way to the top while something was watching them. The captain noticed this and gave the flashlight to the hero. The man took up his sword and they saw huge monsters in front of them. The commander told the hero to be careful and to stay not too close, but not too far away from it either. The commander said that the protagonist could use the Gorgon lantern, but warned him not to rely on it too much. The system said that the commander takes good care of the humans, and warned that the fallen before them are no longer fallen, but something scarier. The system warned that one of the enemies was using a hardening mutation. The enemy swung to strike at the humans. It struck with its huge arm, but the commander not only dodged but also struck a series of blows that broke the monster's arm into small pieces. The commander used his talent, Ultimate Shadow. The system explained that the commander used this skill to move so fast that it seemed as if he had clones. The fallen was chopped into small pieces by the captain. The system explained that all these fallen are phantoms summoned by that high-level fallen. The hero realized that these monsters were artificially created, so they were disappearing. A hand appeared behind the hero's back. The system warned that there were 3 enemies, and the hero reacted instantly. There was already a huge monster behind him, ready to attack at any second. The protagonist used a flashlight, but in the end it didn't work, only slowed down the fallen a bit. The enemy struck, and the hero miraculously managed to avoid it. The captain's katana flashed for a second. The enemy was able to react with his mutation and dodge the attack. Even so, he was slightly wounded. The captain called his attack weak and expressed surprise that the enemy was able to hide in the shadows. The hero said he could handle it himself and asked the captain to take on others. The hero already had a plan for the hidden monster. At that time, another monster appeared that had the ability to distort space. The hero said he couldn't handle the others. The system warned that there would be an attack from above and recommended dodging. The commander took the hero by his hood and threw him away from the attack. The protagonist thought about the fact that another nasty ability had appeared on the battlefield. The enemy began to attack the commander, but he dodged and ran away. At one point, he pushed himself off the ground and jumped up to the head of the enemy. He prepared to deliver a fatal blow, but when he attacked, the monster did not take any damage. The system said it had a liquid body mutation. The weakness was the center eye. The hero thought of his opponent as a labor. The system warned of a possible attack from behind. The protagonist was able to dodge it, but the guy was worried that this monster was clinging to him. The system said that the guy had found the right answer and asked how he was going to win. The protagonist smiled. He started to use the flashlight and shouted to the captain. When he reacted, the hero threw the flashlight and said that the monster's weak point was the eyes. The captain was surprised, and the hero was determined. The captain realized what the hero was talking about. Eden destroyed the lantern, which caused a very bright glow. The hero knew that such monsters are most afraid of light, and the best place to hide is under the lantern. 10 minutes ago, a man was fighting a high-ranking fallen. The other team members didn't sit still and join the fight. One blocked the blows while the other 2 attacked the monster. The boy decided to make a vertical strike, but the monster put his arm in front of him, which was also a shield, so the boy's attack didn't work at all, and the enemy began to smile. He used a web that caught the girl, but she was able to dodge at the last moment. The boy said that the guys would not send under the web in any case. The boy was upset as the boy again failed to save him. The spider was instantly behind the girl's back. The man decided to save her by stopping the enemy's attack. After he blocked the attack, he counterattacked and managed to break the monster's paw. The enemy was very angry and gathered a strong blow directly at the man. He managed to block it. The girl also tried to attack the spider, and the other guys did not stand still either. The boy and the girl together chopped the limb that the others had caught by the threads. The girl was happy that they were doing well, but her face changed dramatically. She saw that the enemy began to regenerate very quickly, so they do not have much time. The enemy said that people should not worry because they will die soon. He used a spider web, because of which the air rose stones. The enemy said in a very scary voice that he would kill people right now. The girl was worried as the captain and the hero were not around at such a difficult moment for them. At that time, the captain used the hero's trick. One enemy appeared from the shadows, which surprised the captain, who was sandwiched between two monsters. The guy had to use the ultimate shadow, and he tried to make a very fast sword strike. After heading towards the other monster and choosing an eye, he attacked it, which made the enemy start bleeding. The system congratulated the guys that the battle was over. The captain told the hero that if there was another person in his place, he would not have had time to react, and the hero said that he knew the capabilities of the captain, so he did so. The captain noticed that there was something wrong with the fallen man, and the system praised his intelligence. The captain also came to the conclusion that these monsters were a spider-like ability. At that time, the boys were fighting the monster. The commander said that they should hurry up because the guys cannot cope with that monster. A warning popped up for the hero that a level 6 fallen one was approaching them. From above came falling bodies of comrades and spider webs. The hero reported that the boys had arrived. The boy covered that the captain and the hero were down, and the boys were falling straight towards them. The man told the boy not to relax, as there were more fallen ahead. At that time, the captain instantly disappeared and was in the air. He told the girls to act, and they used the thread. The captain used the thread as a surface for a second jump and made a second leap up even higher. The boys landed to the hero and watched their incredible captain. He took up his sword and made an incredibly serious look, at the same time attacked all the monsters. He instantly moved between them. The guys watching praised their captain. The system also praised the guy for his abilities. Finally, the captain grabbed the ledge and stood up. He thought about the spider web, but a spider appeared behind him and assumed that the commander was their boss. The guy reacted instantly and backed away to strike. The man assumed that the enemy was about level 5. Spider said that the guys are not even his opponents, but the captain is a different matter. Attacking the enemy said he was stronger anyway. The captain decided to go for the past, slipped away from the enemy's attack, and got close enough to cut off the spider's arm. The enemy began to bleed, but he was still smiling. The monster grabbed the captain's leg and threw him down with all his might. The captain started coughing up blood, and the enemy regenerated very quickly. The captain swung to make an attack and went straight at the enemy. The spider also went to attack the man. Once again, they clashed in a fierce battle. The system told the hero that if you kill this spider, you can get a new talent. The guy was very much interested in this information. At that time, the battle with the captain was in full swing. The spider expressed his delight at their duel. The subordinates were worried about the captain, who was getting injured. The commander said that everything was fine, and that the guys should not come any closer. The hero came out of the crowd and turned to the guy. He gave his briefcase to the man and said that he would deal with the enemy himself. The other members of the team were immediately outraged, because the hero had no chance to win. One of the enemy's paws began to bleed. The captain attacked, telling the hero to retreat. The protagonist asked that it be left to him, as he knew what to do. The hero said let the guys keep their mouths shut. The man told the others to look at the captain's face. He also told the others not to look at him. The guys started to pretend they didn't notice anything. The protagonist told them not to attack until the fallen man did. The protagonist approached the enemy started talking to the guy, and the hero smiled listening to the enemy calling him food. The enemy tried to strike, but the hero continued to walk forward confidently. The enemy used his arm and embraced the protagonist. Smiling and laughing, the protagonist told that he was not from the tower. The enemy was surprised, and the protagonist began to say that the monster was the best of his children and gave his name, Ilya. The enemy removed his hand and began to get nervous. He could not understand what was happening, and the hero said that it was just a joke, and the monster is a real loser. The enemy mistook the hero for a teacher, and the guy said the monster hadn't dumbed down over the years. The hero called it one of the few advantages of the spider. The enemy began to burst into tears. He could not believe that this was really happening. The one started asking why the teacher didn't come to him. The team was surprised that a few words were enough for the hero to make the fallen one go crazy. The captain assumed that the hero had gotten valuable information. The hero put his hand on the enemy and said that he was a poor man for thinking that the teacher didn't come to him because he was dead. The hero continued to press the monster and called him a complete failure. Getting close, the hero said that he can't accept the fact that he has such a bastard like Ilya in his life. The enemy began to cry and deny. He thought he was doing a better job. The hero was glad that the demoralization was successful. The protagonist asked if the enemy knew why he put him here. The hero said that there were those who made the enemy better in this place, but still the spider disappointed the hero. The protagonist said that the spider was shaving minnows, and continued to press the spider. At that time, others were discussing the hero's incredible talents. They felt as if the guy could see the essence of the fallen through. The hero said he still felt ashamed that he had created such a lowlife, and that the tower was still standing. The hero made a grim face, and said that the spider was the only shame left. The enemy started crying and begging for another chance. The system started to feel sorry for the monster, as he was really suffering. The system did not understand how the hero managed to do it, and he admitted that he imitated his father. With the help of the tablet, the hero recognized Ilya's character. The hero remembers that the child idolized the teacher and dreamed of becoming his weapon. The hero knew that Ilya was placed here only because of his abnormal ability to become stronger by eating others. Only the hospital had created an even more horrible monster that suppressed Ilya. The hero was sure that soon he would be able to see that teacher. The hero decided to call it a day and took out a comb. When the monster saw it, he was surprised that the teacher had killed the girl. The hero said he was giving the fallen one more chance. He started to approach and beg for another chance. He promised to fulfill the teacher's task and not to let him down again. The hero said that half of the value of the work is in the skill, and the other half is in the history. So the hero promised to make sure that the spider would remain an eternal memory. He started brainwashing the enemy, who started begging the teacher to tell him what he should do next. The guy approached the enemy and whispered something in his ear. The fallen man's face changed dramatically, and he began to cry. After these words, the hero began to leave, and the monster completely upset. After he returned to his body, he started screaming and crying hysterically. After the hysterics, he raised his hands and killed himself. The allies were very surprised at what happened, and the hero got talent 76, Taut, and also if he absorbs the enemy, he can get a part of his characteristics. The system told the hero to get the key from the monster's corpse. The guy with long hair could not realize what had just happened. At that time, the commander asked the protagonist how he got the information. The hero said he would not explain any more, and said that since they were comrades, they should trust each other. The big man laughed, while the reckless boy assumed that this was no ordinary fallen man. The long-haired boy said that you shouldn't treat the fallen as humans. The protagonist asked the wag's brother to get the key from the fallen man's belly. The big man went behind the back of the long-haired guy and said that this job was just right for him. The long-haired guy reached into his jacket and pulled out a bunch of tools. The system was surprised at this and said entertainment is an art. These knives allowed the guy to dismember a corpse delicately, like a cook in the kitchen. Also, these knives were not Jilin. The system said that doors require a key and asked the hero a question: do all doors in this world require a key? The system reminded him that what was happening in this hospital was before the Tower era. The protagonist began to think about the fact that an ordinary hospital turned into a location, and locations can't be destroyed. The whole world was covered with serious rules. That's why the building didn't collapse, and there are doors without a key that can't be opened. At that time, the long-haired guy had already finished with his case and notified the others. The long-haired guy showed the key and said they could go. They were in the air corridor of the second building. The protagonist pondered over the fact that the owner of Talent 75 had been taken to the 6th floor, and he already had 2 Talents 76 and 24. The protagonist came to the conclusion that he shouldn't talk about it. The commander asked what Bai Wu was thinking about. The protagonist wondered why the fallen wouldn't leave the building. If they could get in, they could get out. The commander explained that there was no answer to this question. It was just that the fallen were tied to one place. The commander concluded that the location cannot be destroyed, and the monsters inside it are tied to this place. The commander said that the tethering of the monsters was not proven, so there was no need to take the risk of invoking it. Crazy Boy said that he feels that there are no enemies in the 3rd building. The commander asked the hero's opinion on this. The system said that of all the parts of the hospital, only here were people who left boring notes. The system also warned that the poor thing paid attention to him and left some clues in the 3rd building. The system asked if the protagonist would leave or continue on his way risking his life. The protagonist told the long-haired guy to open the door, and the system didn't understand his choice. The guy inserted the key into the socket, and with a little twist the door opened and the team started to move forward. The system warned the hero, even at the entrance, it is written that the passage is forbidden. The system continued to urge the hero to stop, but he not only continued on his way, but ignored her. The system told him that this enclosure is full of the poor man's resentments. The system suggested that they should move to the 3rd floor, at which time the team saw that the elevator was working. The protagonist thought that they could use the teleportation disc to get back, but the poor thing can't get out of the 4th building. The long-haired man asked why the protagonist pressed the 3rd floor. The protagonist said there would be a clue on the 3rd floor, and the commander said he felt like the hero had been here before and demanded an explanation. The protagonist said that he doesn't like to explain anything. The hero decided to tell because the captain asked him to. When they were on the 11th floor of the 1st building, the guys heard the call of the fallen. The hero went to look for the source and went into a room in the corner. The hero explained that he heard a completely different voice than the guys because his emotions were at 0. The others were surprised, and the captain wondered what the hero had found in that room. The protagonist said that he had to choose 2 things out of 3, and he chose the diary and the comb. Longshot asked why the protagonist didn't choose the key. The protagonist explained his choice by saying that the key might have been too dangerous a choice. The commander assumed that all of the protagonist's knowledge was from the diary. The protagonist said that it was, and all the information was from the diary. When asked where the diary was, the hero said that after reading it, it disappeared. The protagonist said that only a comb was left, but it too would disappear after the mission was completed. Longhaired could not believe that the hero had enough time in the room to memorize everything, and he said that it is natural because they are an elite team. After saying that, they all slumped, as they couldn't memorize so much in such a short period of time. The elevator arrived at the desired floor. The commander asked about what else was written in the diary. the hero said that the clue is on the 3rd floor, and the commander was surprised that this is all. The protagonist said that there was other information, but he would tell you about it when he had to use it. The hero looked at the team and said that everyone should have their own responsibilities. The hero said that his position is the eyes, so the team should not doubt his words. The protagonist said that explaining everything is fine, but not for the team in which there should be complete trust. At that time the girl with blue hair heard a voice. The poor girl said she Xila after her sister. Looking at the source of the sound, she saw nothing, and decided that it was just an illusion. After a moment, the girl's face became distorted, as the crew members disappeared and everything around her began to change. The girl began to scream and call for the captain. But the poor girl's voice suggested that her sister had come to play with her. The girl with blue hair couldn't move or even breathe. She almost lost consciousness, and a hand appeared behind her back. It was the captain who told her to calm down. The girl said she heard something, and the captain started to instruct her to calm down. The commander told the guys that if they heard a voice, they should report it, as it might be some kind of spiritual attack. The protagonist explained that the poor thing's arsenal includes many techniques, not just the hands they saw in the first building. The protagonist showed the vault and advised them not to read anything, as then they would experience the same horror as the patients they asked about. The protagonist and the team went inside. The big man said that thanks to the hero's information, they were not being tortured. The system said that the books really shouldn't be read, as you can feel the pain to the fullest. The commander asked if they could read the documents, but the hero said that they were also stories that studied the fallen. The protagonist said that there might not be any information about the appearance of the fallen, but some specifics could be found. The long-haired guy said that it shouldn't be hard for someone with zero emotional state to read anything. The main character told his team to stand still and don't move. He notified the guys that he was going to start reading the archives. The hero started reading. At one experiment there was a problem, and the doctors decided to ask for help. Although the director forbade to contact that man, he was a genius in the industry of the fallen. Before calling for help, he decided to strengthen Dingjio so that he wouldn't oisikize that person. He dialed the liquid into a syringe, took the girl's hand, and began injecting the contents directly into her vein. The doctor shined the flashlight directly into her eyes, while the hero regretted not feeling emotions as the information he received became less. On April 9th, the doctor was disappointed as he wanted to instill the girl with rites of passage, and as a result, scales started to appear on her skin. The doctor did not understand how to control the development of the fallen, and the hero assumed that Ilya's mutation was caused by a similar method. The man from the memories began to tear out his scales. The protagonist didn't understand why he was doing it, but he kept tearing off the scales one by one. The protagonist's voice did not reach this man. At the time, the guys were trying to wake up the hero. The big man said that the hero really couldn't hear anything. The long-haired guy said that the new guy was very interesting and asked where the captain found him. The captain asked if the guys remembered the slave from the survival game case. The man started to remember. It seemed to be a survival game arranged by the aristocrats. The commander told the guys that the hero was that slave. The commander told another detail. Then it was the first time the hero came out of the tower, but now it was just the second. The commander said that the hero had survived in the blue zone for 2 hours. The big man was dumbfounded that a man who had been outside the tower had survived 2 hours in the blue zone. The commander said that moreover, a man was sent there to kill Bai Wu. But the hero used the fallen man to deal with his enemy. Then he found the teleportation disc and used it. The long-haired guy couldn't believe such a story, as that place was hellishly difficult. There was no way to survive there. The blue-haired girl assumed that Bai Wu was missing some emotions since it was not realistic otherwise. This was their most reasonable explanation. The long-haired guy didn't care as long as the hero was on their side, and the big man asked how the captain knew the hero's whereabouts. The commander revealed that a woman had called him and told him of the hero's whereabouts. She told the commander to find Bai Wu first and get ahead of the aristocrats. A little while later, the hero regained consciousness. The commander was sure that the woman who called him was at least an aristocrat. The protagonist noticed that the guys were discussing him. The commander talked about the things that caught his attention in the hero. The reckless guy said that he immediately realized that the protagonist was as interested as he was. The commander said that Bai Wu doesn't really feel fear, he could only feel interest. The big man asked what they would do if the woman suddenly wanted to take Bai Wu away. The commander made an important look and said that no one would ever be able to take his men away. A smile appeared on Bai Wu's face. The system called the protagonist shameless for eavesdropping, and said that even though the team is all ugly, they are also nice in their own way. The protagonist turned to the guys and asked how much time had passed. The commander said it had been 40 minutes and asked if the protagonist had learned something or not. The protagonist said that he had learned something, but it wasn't very important information. Bai Wu was determined to continue reading and asked the team to wait for him. The world around the hero started to change again. The hero realized that the records began to be kept from 2023. The fallen already existed, and in this place, they were trying to create a fallen that could be controlled. The man conducting the experiment was determined to hurry, because in a year the whole world would be overrun by monsters. Elijah's teacher was mentioned in some of the records. Towers weren't supposed to appear yet, but Ilya mentioned a tower, so the hero assumed it was some other one. The hero was concerned about where the fallen came from, how people got into the tower, and the documents didn't have any information on these questions. The hero intended to look at the next entry, a silhouette appeared behind him. The protagonist could not return to reality, and now the guy seemed completely immobilized. Behind the back, the girl asked the protagonist a question. Why can't a man without scales find a girl? The protagonist said that he lied, as he thought that the man didn't need to suffer so much for having some scales. The girl said the guy was lying. He said he wouldn't lie about such information and gave his name. The girl started yelling that he was lying. Although from the outside the girl seemed harmless, but inside she was a lot of anger and resentment, the hero decided to pretend to be weak. The protagonist explained that turning into a freak was irreversible, and at least he had a better chance of survival. The protagonist decided to pretend to be the poor thing himself. The protagonist should not believe her harmless appearance, as she is most likely the strongest fallen person in the hospital. In the archive, the entries are pulled into other spaces, as this girl wanted the readers to feel people's pain. The protagonist recalled the task of choosing an object and said he chose a comb, even though he believes it never existed. There was silence, only a terrible pressure appeared. In the real world, the hero's body was covered with an aura. The commander assumed that Bai Wu had gotten to the bottom of it. The girl asked why the guy had chosen the hairbrush. The hero confessed that it was just a gut feeling. The protagonist said that he thought the other items didn't have the best memories. The protagonist also said that the hairbrush is not a weapon of torture, so it is impossible to inflict pain with it. The protagonist saw a large number of syringes, saw a camera on the wall for surveillance, saw a strong cage and shackles. The comb didn't seem to fit in that place. The protagonist said that the thing had an air of tenderness about it. The protagonist suggested that there was a person who loved her when she was a child, and it was she who combed the girl's hair to take care of her. The protagonist talked about how when people are faced with something they can't handle, they remember the warm past. The protagonist admitted that he didn't know what the girl had been through, but after going through the patient's memories, he realized that the girl had been through a living hell. The protagonist assumed that the girl was desperate. She remembered another man, but he did not come. In this place there were only monsters and evil people. The girl said the guy was lying. The protagonist assumed that the girl thought he was afraid. He dispelled such speculation by saying that he is different from other people. So he is not afraid and does not hate the girl. He came to find out what happened in the past. The hero said that the girl herself should feel that he is not afraid. He said that people live in the tower, and in the outside world it is difficult for them to survive. The protagonist talked about how he was recently thrown outside the tower, and that the temperature in that place was over 70 degrees, and he almost died. The protagonist could become a fallen man if he died. He said that a girl could kill him, but he wants to die in clarity. The protagonist introduced himself as Bai Wu and asked if he could ask some questions to the girl. She introduced herself as Hong. The protagonist was happy that the girl was slowly starting to trust him, and this time he wouldn't die on the spot. The protagonist was interested in the pattern on the girl's neck and asked what it was, as he had seen someone with the same pattern before. The girl assumed that the hero was curious to know why she didn't kill that fallen man and what happened to the others. The hero nodded in agreement. She said the protagonist would be scared of her. She said the hero would be scared of her. As soon as he saw her, his lies would be exposed. The protagonist said they could test it. He said if the girl was right, he was willing to die. She stared at the guy and then closed her eyes and stretched her hand forward, activating magic. The hero found himself on the 11th floor of the first building. The protagonist noticed the differences from the place he was in. The diary, comb, and key disappeared, and a medical card appeared on the table. It seemed to the hero that the answer to the poor woman's situation was inside, but as soon as he opened the card, spirits flew out of there and started sucking the hero inside. There the man screamed in pain. It seemed that from such a sound his throat was ready to explode. This horror was watched by a girl who was worried about her uncle. The man began to beg the girl for help, though his voice was barely audible. He was begging to be taken away from here, and the girl felt very sorry for him. A little later, the girl heard the news that one of the patients had turned into a fallen man. Her uncle is now no longer human, and is now a fallen man. The doctor said he didn't know why. The girl was very sad that her uncle was gone, and he would no longer be able to tell her stories. The girl saw Yin again in the black room she had made for him. Although she promised to make a colored room, it seemed that the girl had only 3 colors left: black, white, red. Xiaoan told the girl that his bones pierced his body. She assumed that the boy had also become a monster. The girl was upset. She wanted to support the boy, but she couldn't. Later the boy came to say goodbye. He begged to be let go. The girl started crying a lot, and the doctor decided that she was too emotional and injected her with a tranquilizer. Afterwards, she heard the doctors talking about Ding Shi turning into a fallen man. The spots on the girl's arms grew larger, and another crack appeared on her forehead. The guy didn't want to stay in this place either. Even though they see each other, he has to fight with other fallen ones. Every time they met, the girl saw the guy's new scars. She said that if they never saw each other again, she would miss him very much. The doctor started to have a mess, as a lot of people started to lose their minds. The girl was very worried about the guy, even though she believed he was strong. The girl's body continued to transform. The girl's forehead hurt incredibly badly. She felt like she had an eye in her forehead. The hero was thinking about the fact that all the test subjects who had become half-fallen had lost their minds en masse and had become completely fallen. And all of this was somehow connected to the girl. Every test subject had dreamed of her before becoming a fallen. They had known her before, but it was in her dreams that she tried to create a better world for the boys. True, the poor thing's abilities were limited, and the comforts she gave didn't save their lives. They couldn't live such a life, and one by one, they started to give up. At that time the girl began to take them away. She absorbed resentments and suffering. The result was that the subjects lost their will. The girl recorded all the suffering before they stopped fighting. You could say the poor girl sealed them up. At that time it was the 9th of the month. The girl could not look in the mirror, as her whole body was covered with eyes. The girl had no regrets as she was trying to protect people, but it looks like she would soon lose her humanity too. Her hair was falling out. There were all signs that she would soon turn into a fallen man. The girl asked the doctors many times to take care of her, but to them, she was just a monster. She cried because she was turning into a real monster, because she was becoming a monster that no one loved. On the 10th, the girl's transformation was complete. The voices in Fallen's head told her to kill them all and lock them up. She broke the chain, and breaking the gate she set out to kill people. People tried to run and ask for help from outside, but it was impossible since she froze everything. The girl was determined to play a game with the doctors in which they have to hide. Now the girl was losing her mind and felt like she could finally interact with people in some way. All the people who saw the girl were yelling and screaming for help. The girl smiled as people cried with an interesting flavor coming out of her body that gave her a huge appetite. A little later the girl met Ilya. She fought him time after time as he never gave up. Ilya did not want to lose, as he was waiting for his teacher. The girl envied the guy as she too wanted to have a man who could love her. Void hoped that Ilya would be able to wait and shared some of her power with him. It seemed to the girl that because of her the teacher had given up on Ilya and she blamed herself. After a few more days, almost all the doctors were either eaten or became one of them. The voices of all her friends were screaming in her head, making her want to kill people. The girl didn't really want to kill people, but they were all afraid of her since she was a monster. Even though everyone hated the girl, she didn't hate them. She just wanted to play with someone at least. The hero finished reading the story. Now it was clear to the hero why the system called the girl a poor child. This child had experienced the suffering of everyone in this hospital. Even after the mutation remained a kind child. The hero felt sorry for the girl, but then the system spoke. It said that soon the poor girl's thoughts will fall on her again. The hero saw the girl's stats. She was a level 9 fallen. She had a mental power mutation, hate seal, hate change, and hate increase. The system warned that the hero would never in his life be able to defeat a level 9 fallen, so fighting was not an option. The system tried to suggest an answer, but it was quickly suppressed. The hero still remained in the room with the team. They were concerned that it had been a very long time. The commander warned the guys. It would soon be 4 hours since they left the tower. Within a moment of saying that, the guys stirred. The girl with blue hair felt her legs turn leaden. It was interfering with the deceleration. The big man felt his arms become exhausted. It was a hindrance of reducing the attack. The boy with long hair felt depressed. This was the hindrance of negative thinking. The reckless boy lost his eyesight. It was the hindrance of losing his vision. The commander knew that every 4 hours a new debuff appeared, but grief and blindness were usually rare and appeared on the 3rd time. The commander's hindrance was a flash of anger. He asked Ding Wuzhui and Shang Xiaoyi to return to the tower as they were a hindrance. The long-haired guy started crying and calling himself mediocre. He continued to cry and whine, suppressing the mood of the team. The commander was angry and ordered him to disappear as soon as possible. The clueless boy told the captain to be careful and pulled out an item to take back to the tower. The boys disappeared, and the bigger one turned to the captain to see if the hero could handle it. The man was worried because while the hero was stuck there, they didn't know what kind of debuff was on him. At that time a dark aura began to fill the room. The guys noticed that something was wrong with the documents. The commander ordered everyone to gather around the protagonist. The team was surrounded on all sides by a black aura. The guys got into a fighting stance and were intent on defending the hero. Suddenly a fallen man appeared and attacked the huge man, but he was able to block the attack. Looking closely, he remembered the fallen attacker. It was the same one the captain had fought. It turned out that all the fallen that appeared were the ones they had previously dealt with. The big man said it was all because of the captain's angry outburst. A bolt of lightning flew by and cut off a fallen's arm. It was the captain who sliced off the heads of the enemies at incredible speed. The huge man was very surprised at the captain's strength. He stepped on the part of the fallen that remained and it dispersed. The commander ordered the guys to protect the protagonist while he was killing the fallen. A new fallen appeared, and the commander assumed that the hero had found something incredible. And at that time the protagonist was dumbfounded. He found himself in an unknown place with many doors. He could move through that space, but the number of doors shocked him. The system appeared for a while, and explained that this space was connected to all the records. The disturbance that caught up with the hero was confusion. The system explained that the orientation was distorted by 65 degrees, and this debuff would interfere greatly. The protagonist only needed to find the right door. The system upset the guy that there were more than 100 such doors in space, and only one door could lead the hero to reality. The protagonist decided to get out of the deadlock. He walked into one of the doors, where most of the space was filled with empty space. The protagonist held out a hairbrush and said he didn't fool the girl. He explained that he had come to this world recently and treated the fallen differently. The protagonist explained that even now, he was not afraid of the girl. She asked if it was true that the protagonist wasn't afraid of her. The hero expressed his regret that the girl had no one to comb her hair. The protagonist explained that there are many things beyond the walls of the hospital, and decided to tell why the tower people are afraid of the fallen. The hero explained that there was no research to prove that humans were more bloodthirsty than the fallen. Ilya was the one the humans led using his loyalty. The hero said that the girl was different. She accepted most of the test subjects of this hospital and considered them friends. The protagonist couldn't even imagine how hard it was for her to bear the many resentments accumulated in her body. The hero said that since she was able to retain her will, she was still a human being and not a monster worth hating. At that time, the captain dealt with another fallen. The big man reported that the fallen's hatred had dissolved. The captain assumed that Bai Wu had done well. The protagonist advised the girl not to let herself be turned into a monster, and said that the world beyond is vast. He said that the girl could have seen a lot since she is incredibly kind. In a sad voice, the girl replied that she couldn't leave this place. The protagonist said that he would definitely find a way to free the girl from that place. He said that if the girl is willing to trust him and wait. Suddenly voices started to appear in the girl's head that ordered to kill the protagonist. She said that the protagonist was not lying to her. The protagonist watched her and looked up and said that she and the girl looked something alike. The hero said that they are both abandoned in this world that they know nothing about. The hero has a mission to uncover all the secrets outside the tower. The protagonist had a lot of questions about this world, and all of them he wanted to know the answer to. The protagonist promised that once he found all the answers, he would come for the girl to free her. She couldn't understand why the guy would do that. The protagonist said that she was not alone, because from today she had a friend who could finally play with the girl. She started crying after what she heard. The girl thanked the protagonist for that, and advised her not to go to the fourth building. The girl said that if they get close to her, she won't be able to control herself. She advised the hero to become as strong as the captain, and then go to her. The protagonist said he would definitely do that. He promised that at the next meeting they would play together. The protagonist clarified that it would be regardless of how the girl would turn out. The girl said that the protagonist should look in the first building before he left, because a man had come there 2 days ago and left some things there. The protagonist really knew that a few days ago there were traces of blood left there. Thinking about the possible identity of the person, the protagonist assumed that it was the same teacher. The protagonist asked what the person was doing. The girl said she didn't know, but the thing he had was similar to the one that returns to the tower. The protagonist thought about all the options about why leave such a thing here. The protagonist asked the girl to take him to the place. She agreed, and the hero came out of his trance. The commander noticed that the hero took a long time to deal with the last document. Not only the fallen, but also the rest of the documents had disappeared from the room. The commander asked the hero to tell what he had discovered. The guy briefly told that he found the document of the subject from the fourth corps. The hero said that in the fourth corps they will not be able to cope, but the big man said that the guy should not underestimate the captain. The man began to praise the captain, calling him the strongest. The protagonist explained that if you took all the fallen of the hospital, they were unable to damage the fallen of the fourth corps. The commander was surprised that the hero was so sure of this, and asked what happened inside the document. The protagonist said he would tell you on the way. Before continuing on his way, the hero asked where two members of the team had gone. The hero was told that they were sent back due to debuffs, and asked what the hero's handicap was. The protagonist said he was lucky, and it was just confusion. The commander asked how long it took to adapt, and the hero told them that he changed his routine almost immediately. The guys were surprised, and the girl with blue hair asked where they were going. The hero told about a man who came here and left one thing in the first building. The big man asked the captain if they really weren't going to building 4. He said they were not going there. Before the Tower era, the fallen had already started appearing all over the world. To find the cause of the fallen, many people started researching, eventually creating fallen. The big man was surprised by such information. After all, they should have researched the fallen, not created them. The protagonist didn't know the exact reasons, but there are at least 2 test subjects almost succeeding. The commander assumed that the Spider-Man was one of them, and the hero said that the Spider-Man and the girl from Corp 4 were half successful. The commander asked why the girl was also half successful. She was stronger than the spider after all. The hero said that the girl absorbed the suffering of other people, which eventually made her fallen. The hero said that even though she became a fallen, the girl's goodness didn't go away. The captain said that the fallen are fallen, their nature is to kill people, and no matter how kind or sad they seem, as long as they are fallen they are enemies of humanity. The protagonist agreed with the captain's words, and thought about finding a way to turn her back into a human, or at least get rid of her bloodthirstiness. Suddenly the hero's face changed. The image of a girl appeared in front of him. The commander asked the hero what happened, and he said nothing. It turned out that the girl's spirit could only see the hero. The girl was a little angry because of the conversation with the captain. The hero was now sure that the whole hospital was part of the girl. They came in, and the fallen one pointed her finger toward a passageway. The hero went in there, and really saw something lying on a table. The hero assumed that the thing had been left there on purpose to be found. The guys thought that the thing really looked like a teleportation disc, but the captain rejected their arguments. It was a traveling disc, of which there were only 7 in the world. With this thing you could return to a location that was placed within 3 days. It was a stranger's invitation. There were bloody records lying on the floor. The protagonist paid attention to the text. There was a string of documents, and the poor girl's story was just the beginning. The protagonist wondered what kind of invitation it was. The commander asked why the protagonist was smiling. The protagonist said he was glad they were coming back, and asked to be allowed to take the disc as a souvenir. The commander agreed to give the disc to the hero. The commander said it was time for them to go back, as there was nothing more to explore. He took out a teleportation circle, and he and the others started to disappear. The girl looked at the hero with very sad eyes, but he smiled and said that they would see each other again. The system rated the completion of the task as SOSO, and the girl dobbed her friend goodbye. The hero disappeared, and the girl sat in her subconscious along with her hairbrush. She smiled and waited for the moment when the hero returned. The team started safely back home. The long-haired guy was angry that he had a terrible handicap, and the crazy guy was cheering him on. The manager asked why the members of Squad 7 had returned from the blue zone. It was unclear, as the squad went through the white zone and came back through the blue zone. The manager explained that the human body cannot withstand being moved more often than once every 12 hours. The long-haired man said that they knew that very well and were waiting for their captain. The protagonist came out smiling. He said it was lucky they weren't interrupted by 2 crew members. Tauntingly, the protagonist called the moving of the team members a tactical retreat. The long-haired guy chose to ignore the hero. At the time, the hero was thought of as an incredible rookie, as he had been outside for over 4 hours on his first trip. The commander said that there would be no missions for Bai Wu in the near future. The protagonist asked why there would be no assignments. The commander explained that today's assignment was a test, which the protagonist passed. The commander explained that they would have to settle the formalities a little later, and only then would the protagonist become a full member of the group. The protagonist thought that this was just right for him, as he had a few issues to work out. The protagonist was determined to think of a way he could get some money. Late at night, the commander was sitting at his desk. He was going through the documents about the abilities of the guys on the team. On the table were analytical reports on all the members of the team. The commander was twirling his pen and thinking a lot, as the main character's mental abilities were at a non-human level. The commander was thinking that with such abilities, they would have a new rank 8 specialist within a few years. The commander lit a match and assumed that he needed to prepare since the game house was also connected to Bai Wu. He decided to take a blank slip and a quill. He decided to hide the guy's abilities as much as possible. Time passed, and the commander substituted the blank form with analytics about the hero. He would complete his work, and was sure that this result would do the trick. The commander put an earpiece in his ear and began a dialogue with the service bureau. The captain introduced himself, and the other side of the phone recognized him. The commander asked to protect one person, namely a member of his team. The commander asked to choose the best people, as that person was very observant and attentive. The person on the other side of the phone did not understand why the commander would not assign this to the intelligence corps. The commander admitted that the case was special, and the intelligence corps people were not suitable for this. The man on the phone asked what they would get in exchange, and the commander promised to bring something every time they left the tower. The girl admitted that the conditions were just super, but now her interest was even more inflamed. She was incredibly curious about what kind of person the captain wanted to protect. At that time, the hero headed for the port. The protagonist headed to the little girl's store. At that time in the store, the girl swore that she only had one boyfriend. The guy was very upset as he was not the only one the girl had. He cried since he works hard every month to make the girl happy. The guys argued and cried, as they sincerely loved the girl. She pretended to fall down and fainted. She started to cry and apologize. She said that she liked both guys very much. The guys were touched at such words, and the girl's explanation seemed to work. She took both of them by the hands and said that she didn't want to part with them. She said that the guys were like her 2 wings. As the main character watched this miracle, the system did not hold back and laughed with these people. At that time, the satisfied guys left the store. It seemed they had become best friends. The satisfied girl sat and made beauty. The main character suggested that he had come at a bad time. The girl said he came even earlier than she expected. The protagonist was interested in what had just happened, and the girl explained her behavior by saying that they were both annoying her. She said that since they were courting, they should just keep courting. The girl said she had stopped liking guys like that lately, so she called them both in for a quickie. The system even joked that it wasn't a fight scene, but a recycling scene. The girl approached the hero and asked why he came to her. The girl said that lately she likes guys who look like the protagonist, and he said he had good news, and pulled out a camera that was taking pictures from the past. Last night, the hero found this shop and headed inside. As he was walking, he looked around, and a little while later, he was greeted by a very hot girl. The system was very complimentary about her looks, and said that the girl was really cool. The system, after a bit of thinking, realized that this girl was very lovable, and had a million boyfriends, So quickly the opinion changed. The system advised the hero to buy something as soon as possible and leave. At the same time, she gave information about the items. She explained that the multi-cooker in the future will be able to make delicious food, and so she advised to buy it. The girl asked if the protagonist had found something to his liking. The protagonist said that he would take the rice cooker and the mug. The girl stood up and said that the mug was not bad, but the rice cooker was useless, so she advised not to buy it. The girl introduced herself and said that the protagonist is not stupid, and she wouldn't want him to be stupid. The protagonist repeated his words about taking both items. Bai Wu asked how much the girl would charge for the two items. The girl originally wanted a discount, but the offer changed. She was offering the items either for 1,000 TS or free. The protagonist said he was a common man and asked for a discount. The girl said that no one needs rice cookers now, only if they turn into jingling. The girl knew that the mug in the tower was also useless, only outside it made sense. The protagonist recognized that the girl had a keen eye and agreed to the free option. The girl was immediately excited and said she would start packing. While packing, she stopped and put the camera in there, and when asked by the protagonist why, she said she did it by accident. The system realized why the girl was doing all this. The girl said that in a few days, the hero will notice the camera and return it to her as a kind person. The hero asked what would happen if the thing didn't become a jingling. The girl said that in any case, she would be satisfied. She invited the hero to start the acquaintance again, and Lu Qingqi introduced herself again. Leaving, the hero introduced himself as Bai Wu. Waving goodbye, the girl with orange hair said that she hoped for good cooperation and waited for good news. In the present, the girl was glowing with happiness and was surprised that the item became a jingling so quickly. When asked what the camera does, the hero said that the apparatus is capable of taking pictures from the past. The girl immediately glowed with happiness and seemed incredibly happy to have such an ability. She hurriedly took the item from the hero, but he didn't want to give it back so quickly. Bai Wu said that they should discuss payment first. The girl offered to make the item a gift, and she would remember the hero as a good person. The protagonist said that was impertinent and refused. The girl gave in to Bai Wu and tried to pull a seduction trick offering herself as payment. The protagonist said he wasn't interested in the girl and offered a 50% discount if she made an offer now. The girl with orange hair admitted defeat and asked for time to evaluate the item. The protagonist handed her a camera. The girl immediately started the examination, and the protagonist told her how to use it, name the exact date in her mind, and take a picture. The girl decided to try out the new thing right away. She stood in a place and pointed the camera at one place. She pointed the camera and turned to the hero and said that she just wanted to feel the sweetness of lovers. The result was a photo from the very spot, the moment she broke the hearts of two guys. The girl called this item a treasure, as the range of possibilities was very vast. By taking a lot of pictures in different places, you can pull out the past and see what happened. The main character called this kind of action very similar to a puzzle game. The girl asked why the photos stopped appearing, and then the protagonist explained that photos can be taken no more than twice a week. The girl was upset by the fact that it was impossible to reach an agreement with the hero. She started to talk, but the hero interrupted her and agreed to barter. The protagonist began to pressure the girl and said that she would not underestimate the price, because then he would be even more disappointed in her. The girl was upset because she had no equivalent items in the shop. The girl with orange hair asked the hero to tell her about the items he would like to get. He asked about the live airs and the port center. She explained that it was selling through the airs. The girl said it was a scam, but the hero understood it perfectly well. The protagonist wondered, had the airways outside the tower been broadcast before, or were they divorces even when created? The girl was interested and asked if the protagonist wanted to do an airing. The protagonist was sure that there were real earrings as well, since divorce simply didn't work if there was cheating everywhere. The girl asked if this information counted as part of the camera fee. The protagonist agreed and asked for more details. The girl started walking and invited the guy to her room. Most tower residents only go out into the world when escorted along with members of the intelligence corps. Since the members of the intelligence corps initially destroy the fallen, there are very few people who have seen monsters. The girl said that although everyone is afraid of the fallen, they are also eager to see them. The protagonist said that there is nothing surprising about it, and talked about the survival game and overwhelmed the girl with a lot of information. The girl summarized that people really like to see what's outside the tower. Although the tower is huge, it can't be compared to the world before the catastrophe, and everyone from the common man to the aristocrat is interested in what's going on in the world, but they are very afraid to leave the tower on their own. The protagonist realized that the sheer number of people interested created a demand in the market. The protagonist wondered why people from intelligence were not doing it. It turned out that only the heads of corps and 16 captains of units could apply to leave the tower. The protagonist assumed that this was logical, since who would lend their sword to the merchants? The protagonist realized that if he needed to leave the tower unauthorized, he would need to hide his identity. The girl explained that many people are interested in this, but there is only one way for the item to work outside the tower, and that is for the hardware to be jingling. The girl said that only the jingling item can work outside, but they say that it takes a long time. The girl said that a rich man spent a great deal of time to take the cadence out of the jingling tower. The girl started to talk about this item, but the protagonist interrupted her, calling it a surveillance device. The protagonist asked how the man could be sure that all the shackles would become jingling cadence. The girl said that the man took a lot of shackles, because the more shackles there are, the higher the chance of jingling. The girl said that 13 shackles turned into jingling. The phenomenon was called jingling diffusion, which interested the hero very much. The girl said that sometimes people have paired swords, and 2 swords turn into jingling, but the phenomenon was very rare. The protagonist realized that it was possible that a set of things could turn into a jingling, but he asked why the intelligence corps didn't use a tracking device. The girl said that the rich man was not going to sell the item. The hero assumed that the rich man was an unusual person. The girl said that there was a belief that the rich man was from the 5th floor. The protagonist knew that it was the government floor, and assumed that the survival game case was not so simple. The protagonist began to ponder about who saved him from the game house, and why the man needed it. The protagonist asked himself many questions, the main one being whether he would attract attention if he were to leave the tower. The protagonist asked if the girl had a way to get equipment for streaming. She said she knew someone who had found a loophole and would be able to help. The protagonist started with the first thing he wanted to get, which was a voice-changing mask, or at least strong enough. The protagonist said that none of this should cross his name and asked the girl to hide it. The protagonist said that if he took his camera when traveling outside the tower, his level would increase, and he could take photos more often. The protagonist promised that he would help the girl a lot in the future, of course if she honored his request. They gave their hands as a sign of acceptance of the agreement, and the girl was quite satisfied and said that they had reached an agreement. She promised that she would get everything that the hero asked for. He only needed to stream quietly, and she would do the rest. The girl was sure that the hero was her ticket to a rich life. The protagonist asked about the time frame the girl would need, and she promised that she could do it in 3 days. Lastly, the hero said he hoped for a good cooperation. The girl was very excited, and they started discussing the broadcasts. The night came. The protagonist stood in his room and looked at the thing he had taken from the hospital left by the man. He was thinking about this invitation. A knock came at Bai Wu's door. It was the girl from the interrogation team, and she said that the captain had sent her to bring the hero. The protagonist said he would be right there, but at the same time he thought about what the captain wanted from him. When he opened the door, he asked what happened, and the girl said that the captain thought that the hero would be bored, so he found a case for him. The girl said that the head of the group called the guy very capable. The protagonist agreed, and thought about the fact that only yesterday he was given a week's vacation, and today he is already being sent for interrogation. The hero said that he was free for 2 days and ready to help them. The girl said that they had a lot of cases, and the captain wanted the protagonist to be responsible for them all. A week should be enough. The system realized that the captain understood that the hero would want to leave the tower, and decided to make a move. The protagonist said he understood. He turned to the girl and said it was time for them to go to the place and take a look at everything. The second floor of the tall tower, the hero was told that they had arrived at the location. They arrived at the Branch 7 headquarters of the Intelligence Corps unit. The hero asked why they didn't have computers, and the man sitting behind the chair explained that they only had them on the 3rd floor. The girl introduced the head of the interrogation team, Tion Sun. He said that he had heard about the hero and hoped to work well together. The protagonist realized that the technology of the 3rd floor was about the same as in his time, but the technology of the 4th and 5th floor should be an order of magnitude higher. The hero asked to tell what the cases had in common. The man explained that they were not like each other. They were not serial murder cases after all. He explained that the only thing they have in common are the suspects, but the evidence and many other things are missing. The protagonist was surprised that with so many cases, they only have the process of collecting evidence, and the man explained that every day there is a new case. The man sat on a chair and complained about his boss. The protagonist wondered what was wrong, and the man explained that the captain wants them to work on every case, as he intends to fight lawlessness on the lower floors. He said that the captain wants to let the men know that they are not only a workforce, but also individuals. The hero asked if they had the right to arrest the main suspects, and the answer was yes, as they had real power, though less than the measurement corps. The protagonist realized that the rights of the people on the lower floors were being infringed upon, and in the protagonist's opinion, it would be very difficult for the captain to change the situation. The hero asked to bring all the suspects for questioning. If suddenly there were not enough people, they should ask for help from other groups. The man was very surprised. As there will be more than 100 people in total, he was not sure that the hero will be able to cope. The protagonist said that outside the tower no one doubted his words, and hoped they wouldn't either. The man was a little nervous, and said that the hero was definitely not a slip-up. The protagonist ordered them to get the job done as soon as possible. A little while later, the building was filled with a huge number of people. They were put in a line and ordered to go in one by one. The man realized that there were indeed a lot of people. He was not sure if the hero could handle the job. At that time, another unit commander came in and asked what was going on. He had the idea that there had been a stabbing on the lower floors. The man said that they were going to solve all the cases at once, and the other captain was very surprised. The captain said that the protagonist had nothing to do, and after these words, he started to leave. At that time, in the interrogation room, a person came in to ask how things were going. Others said that Bai Wu had already started interrogating people. They watched everything through the monitors. The first case was the murder of the husband. The girl even looked like she was from the 3rd floor. The man said that the investigation found out that their relationship didn't work out, so she was suspected, but they couldn't find any evidence. The girl started repeating her story, that she was at the casino on the day of the murder. The system told about a girl who is trying to have a luxurious life even though she is from the bottom floor. She is having an affair with the casino owner, and the system advised to call him in for questioning. The protagonist assumed that the girl teamed up with her lover, and together they killed her husband. The motive was money. A girl was sent to the protagonist, as he had called someone from the interrogation department to his room. She was on her way to the room, and in front of the door came out the hero, who handed her a folder. The protagonist ordered to bring the casino owner and interrogate them separately. The hero ordered that when interrogating them to do as he wrote, and then the trust between the lovers would be shaken. The protagonist headed out to deal with the next case. 5 minutes later, the protagonist came out and said that the murder weapon had been installed. Bai Wu said it was a hand-sharpening tool hidden in a bookshelf. The guy promised to go look for it now. The next interrogation came. An hour later, the man came into the interrogation room, tired. He asked all the guys in the interrogation group. The guys didn't understand what it was about, and he said that they had a monster that solves cases with incredible speed, and they were short of people. The man told the guy not to exaggerate, and he confessed that he solved 10 cases in an hour. The guy said that the character finds everything incredibly fast, like a person who knows the whole scenario. The guy immediately left the group and went on with his business. People were very surprised that the hero was so cool. A little while later, he put up a huge amount of documents and ordered to give these cases to Bai Wu. At that time, the hero was already interrogating the 12th suspect. The guy asked him to turn off the monitor and delete the records of past interrogations. The subordinate didn't understand why this was necessary, but the man assumed that at this rate, the hero would be done in a day. At that time, the captain of Unit 13 received a request for temporary coordination. He didn't understand what was going on, but his man reported that Interrogation Team 7 was solving all the cases, and they were short of men. The man was sure they wouldn't succeed, but then he remembered the hero, and his face immediately changed. He hit the table with all his might, and became very upset as the protagonist did not join him in the units. It was late at night at the Intelligence Corps branch. The units had finally finished all their work and were incredibly tired. The man assumed that after such a huge number of solved cases, they would definitely receive material aid from the upper floors. Only he was very worried about the abilities going beyond the boundaries of reason. The team heard the sound of knocking on the door. It was the hero, who came to discuss something. He asked about the material support from the upper floors. The man explained that the interrogation group was different from the other groups, and in order to get material support, they had to keep a report on solved cases. Everyone falsified their reports, and they had a captain who could report on solving a case only when it was really solved. The protagonist felt sorry for the guys, who hadn't seen material support for a long time, and they thanked Bai Wu for his help. The man confessed that all these cases had been lying around for a long time, and had accumulated as debts. The man asked what Bai Wu wanted to talk to him about. The protagonist wanted to clarify today's situation. He said that he had no talent for investigation, and he was just lucky to get a good opportunity to practice. The guy said that no one would believe that the hero had no talent. The hero said he would give details of each case and asked to report back so that he would not be involved in any way with the cases. He said that all the cases were solved because the captain was secretly helping, and it was a long time ago. They just decided to report only now. The hero said that if they start asking anything, they need to show the document that has everything in it. The man asked if they had done everything, and the hero was just a regular employee. After the hero confirmed the man's words, he was concerned about why they needed to do this, to hold things for one day. The hero said it could be explained by drawing attention from upstairs. The man didn't understand what the guy meant, as he thought he was unsettling himself. The protagonist started to explain. He didn't really like the upper floors, but the lower floors were one solid crime. This will continue as long as the upper floors continue to ignore the problems of the lower floors. In fact, you have to look both up close and globally. Up close, it seems that each criminal has his own motives, but globally the social environment makes people go on crime. The protagonist explained that they need support from the upper floors to fix this problem. The man was surprised at how the hero clearly described the situation. In his opinion, if the captain heard it, he would have smiled. The man said the hero was right and instructed the others to start doing the documentation. The man asked if the hero remembered all the oral testimony of the criminals by heart, and the hero said it was normal for a member of the interrogation team to have an instant memory. The others started coughing up blood, as they were nowhere near that kind of memory. A few days later in the captain's office, he said that he had been reported that the hero had solved all the crimes. The protagonist said that such things should not be told to outsiders. The captain said that he saw the hero rushing to get out of the tower, because he had done all the work in one day, and the hero said that members of the intelligence corps are forbidden to leave the tower unauthorized. The captain said that it is so, and if he catches the hero, he will get a serious punishment, as he advised the protagonist not to climb where his strength is not enough. The hero realized what the captain was hinting at, namely, that he should not leave traces and be careful. The captain said that he passed the report to the higher-ups. The commander said that they would be under pressure because of such a quick resolution of issues. He walked up to the hero and thanked him for his hard work. The captain handed the hero a plaque and told him he could take things to travel without any questions asked. The system said there was sure to be a huge amount of good stuff in that place. The commander said he sent a report about their journey, and that a dignitary would be coming in 4 days to find out all the details. The captain assumed that the upper floors were interested in what was going on in the hospital. The protagonist said he knew how he would answer. The captain said that every member of the group would be questioned. The protagonist asked not to talk about the disc they found in the hospital. The captain thought there was something special about it, and asked the protagonist about it, who said he was looking into it. The captain said he would tell the others not to talk about the disc. The commander held out the report, and said it was the agreed-upon information about their operation. Reading the report, the system realized that the commander was belittling the hero's accomplishments to protect him. The protagonist said he filled out a version, and the commander sent him to the supply group to pick something for self-defense. The protagonist thanked the captain and said goodbye. The captain was left standing alone in the room. He was upset that he had underestimated the hero's strength, and he had done all the work in 1 day. He was sure that he would have to overestimate Bai Wu's abilities. The protagonist arrived at the location. He stood in front of the weapons said intelligence corps. A member of the supply team told the hero to pass. The man asked him to ignore the mess. This place contains everything the squad brings. The man said that the place where the hero is standing is not bad jingling, and told him to take his time to choose. The system also explained what the items did, such as a mug that made coffee taste perfect. The pendant could change the voice to female or male, gloves could become weapons, but the attention of the system and the hero was attracted by the mask, which cannot break. The hero remembered seeing footage of it in the hospital, though he didn't pay much attention to it at the time. The protagonist assumed that someone had been in the hospital before since this mask was found there. The employee asked if the hero was picking out a mask. The protagonist said that most of the items in this place are mundane, but the mask is not useless unlike them. The employee was surprised that the protagonist chose the item so quickly, and offered to look around more. The protagonist refused and started to leave. Time later, the protagonist held the mask in his hands and showed it to the girl, who was very excited about the thing. The girl asked to give her the thing for a couple days, but the protagonist coldly refused. The girl said she had handled her part of the arrangement. The girl said her new boyfriend would only let her use it long-term if he saw results. The girl pulled out a box and announced that it was the earliest streaming equipment. The system warned that there was someone outside. The girl told that they could start as soon as the hero was ready. The girl said that people are really looking forward to the real streamers since there have only been 6 in a year, in 5 of which people were torn apart by the fallen. The protagonist estimated his survivability at 16%. He wanted to take a risk because to earn otherwise unrealistic, and if anything, he could return to the starting point. The girl took out some jingling clothes and said that the hero might need them outside. The hero was not happy. The system recognized that the things were useful, but because of their appearance, she asked him to refuse. The girl said that the issue of identity concealment was almost solved and the last stage was left, namely to register the hero in the mercenary forces. Then he would be able to leave the tower on his own. The girl said she would take the hero to the right place. When they arrived at the place, they wanted to refuse, because the group can be registered only if there are at least 6 people in the squad. The man said he could find a solution, namely to forge allies, but it would cost 500 TS. The girl said she would pay, and the man with glasses was happy that things were going well. According to the rules, the hero had to come up with names for his comrades, and the guys started. The first one was Constantine, the second one was Bai Piao. The peddler was a little excited about these names. The next name was Xiaozi Odin. The next one was Shanxi Gale. The girl behind his back was laughing openly, and the man who registered the hero was shocked. The protagonist had given a name very similar to the girl's, and she resented it. She was offended by the fact that she was helping the hero in everything, and he ruined her name. A little while later the girl was shocked. The protagonist brought her to his house and explained that it was to make it easier to get in touch. The girl resented the protagonist for doing things his way and asked for at least one use of the camera. The protagonist asked her to tell him what had been taken with the camera in the past, and the girl pretended not to know what the protagonist was talking about. Bai Wu said that since he assumed that something was taken on the camera, it was probably true. He said that since they were partners, the girl should tell him about it. The girl made a sad face and said she was about to start a story. It turned out that 2 years ago, 2 of her friends disappeared. There is a strong hierarchy in the tower. 3 years ago, a huge number of beautiful girls disappeared once a week. The men were immediately sent to the Hunger Games, but the beautiful girls were first used differently. The girl clenched her hands and said that the friends will never come back, because they were outside the tower. The girl asked if the hero would be able to meet a person outside the tower, but the hero remained silent. The girl said that she and her friends had originally started a business selling clothes, so that even people from the lower floors could dress in style. The girl admitted that she used to be different, but when her friends disappeared, the store closed, and she couldn't continue the old business. The girl knew that to denounce the aristocrats one must have hard evidence, which she did not have. The hero assumed that the friends were investigating the kidnapping of the girls, since it was unlikely that they had been taken like the others. They'd lost everything that was taken on camera. The protagonist realized that the girls' car connections were for self-defense, and also realized that it was very easy to register just because it benefited the people at the top. The protagonist told the girl that it was good to have a fair heart, but also clarified that the girl underestimated her opponents. The girl was surprised and upset that the hero had already figured it out. She assumed that her friends had been played with long ago and dumped somewhere outside the tower. The girl asked if her friends became fallen, would they eat her? The protagonist said that if she outrayed the girls outside the tower, he would tell her that the merchant misses them. The girl looked at the hero with a very upset look, but the hero instantly kicked her out of his apartment, as he was intent on packing up and leaving the tower. He put on his mask, threw on his clothes, and was ready to set off on his journey. At that time, it was raining outside the tower. The guy with blue hair was breathing very hard. The commander from the group ordered the guys to calm down, as their lives depended on it. The guy with blue hair started talking about the death of their comrade, and their captain ordered him to calm down, as otherwise he threw him out of the cave. They were very afraid of the monster that could come at any moment. The bald man said that the monster had broken all of the discs, and all they had to do was wait for their deaths. 4 hours ago, the group arrived at the area outside the tower. The commander immediately ordered to find out the number of fallen. It turned out that there was only 1 fallen in the jungle. The man said that they should have a good hunt for 1 fallen. A little while later his face changed dramatically. The fallen ran one of the team members. The commander ordered the guys to urgently activate their teleportation discs and return to the tower. At that time, the monster killed another team member. The commander was very saddened by old Sonya's death. The commander had no way of understanding why this fallen man couldn't be killed. In the present tense, the commander explained that the fallen man was pretending to be weak to lure them into a trap. The commander assumed that the fallen had a high intelligence, which is why he had broken the teleportation discs in the first place. The team received interference, namely confusion, slowing, and corruption. The commander realized that it had been 4 hours. They already couldn't handle the monster, and now they didn't stand a chance. The guy with blue hair said they had a small chance, but the bald man reminded the team that meeting someone outside the tower was rare. The commander said that most likely they would die anyway, so he said they couldn't just wait for their deaths. He said they could try to escape from this place. They came out of the cave, and the commander heard a sound and turned in that direction. There stood the main character, who ordered the guys to come out and let him look at them. He said that if the guys want to survive, they should exchange information, and the team was surprised that they met a man. At that time in Jianlu Harbor, a girl was standing next to a TV set and radioed to get ready and turn it on. A white screen appeared on the TV. People thought it was broken. A little while later, people realized that it was streaming outside the tower and started to crowd around. The main characters saw the guys who were in the area. The system had a huge amount of questions as to why a weak fallen was able to kill 2 members of their team. The protagonist heard from the system that this was the world of the 7th apprentice, namely the teacher who taught Ilya. The frightened man thought that the protagonist was the devil or a fallen. The protagonist said that was not a bad thing, and assumed that the man wanted to die very badly, since he left only such options. The commander pointed a furnace at the hero and asked who he was. The system warned that this man was thinking of killing the hero and taking his disc for himself. The protagonist said that they had already lost 2 of their own because they had underestimated the enemy. The man at the first step of the 3rd level was too weak. The protagonist also said that he knew that they had been in this place for 4 hours and advised them to think carefully about what they were going to do. The commander realized that the protagonist is very strong since he could find out everything so quickly. The protagonist introduced himself as Constantine and said that if the guys wanted to survive, they should stop thinking about nonsense. At that time, Qinglin asked if they could really survive. The protagonist was interested in the guy's talent, the disc of joy and sorrow. The commander offered to give him a teleportation disc, and he would be able to bring reinforcements. The protagonist was silent at first. The system explained that in this dungeon there should be 3 people and 8 junctions where you can get your rewards. The protagonist thought about why this is so. He realized that it is because there are 3 survivors and only 8 outcomes. The protagonist refused as he didn't trust the captain. The protagonist said that the monster had a strong perception and hinted that he could have killed the guys and didn't, but broke their discs. The commander suggested that the fallen one has intelligence. The protagonist explained that he let the humans escape in order to enjoy their fear and despair. The hero explained that the fallen one only played with the humans to make them tastier. The guy with blue hair fell to the ground and was completely disappointed, as it turned out that the monster was just playing with them. The protagonist explained that if one prey escapes, the monster will immediately attack the others. The protagonist asked if the commander's decision had changed. The commander asked why the monster did not do it, since the hero is also here. The protagonist said that the monster did not smell him. The protagonist began to walk and said that in order to survive, they need to learn the secret of the area and then kill the fallen. The commander thought that the protagonist was joking, because killing such a monster is unrealistic. The main character looked at his watch and said that they had 2.5 minutes left. He said that they needed to find the next hideout, and they could talk on the way. The commander asked why the hero thought there were other hideouts in this place. The hero explained that the monster would want the guys to have hope and eat even more delicious food. The protagonist explained that despite the fact that the fallen here for many years, he did not block the shelters, because in fact he left them on purpose, as well as the hero said that the distance between the trees is the same. The commander was angry, as he could not realize that they had stumbled upon a predator that likes to torture its prey. The hero explained that it was acid rain, which had no effect on plants, only on people. The commander said that there were 5 of them, but one of them went out into the rain and instantly dissolved. The hero assumed that they had an emotional outburst and started running away from the fallen one. The commander explained that the speed and strength of the fallen one wasn't that great. The protagonist assumed that the guys thought they could win. They wanted to explain themselves, but the hero found what he was looking for. The system said there was no fallen man inside, only human bones, and warned that the fallen man was already out hunting. The system counted down to 400 seconds. The hero ordered the bald man to stand guard, and the rest of the men to come down with him. The commander told the bald man to listen to the hero and do as he was told. The protagonist said that he would go ahead and they should follow him. The commander asked Qin Lin to go ahead. The hero assumed it was because of the ability of the disc of sorrow and joy. The system explained that the guy's ability could increase and decrease his luck. The hero assumed that today was a lucky day, so he let the guy step first. The system warned that this guy had lost 2 partners today, and things might not go as planned. The guys were inside and moving through the cave. It was pretty narrow, but there was enough height to get around. The guy said hello to the hero and introduced himself, and the protagonist advised him to move faster, because the bald man would soon give a signal. There were unusual mushrooms around, which were glowing. The hero also noticed that the cave was winding, also acid rain. The hero thought that the environment here is very similar to the thoughts of the hero interrupted by the crack of a bone, which stepped on a guy. He was startled and started screaming. Looking closer, they saw a human skeleton. The protagonist asked to let him pass. The system said that it was a girl who died 200 years ago. She left the last words, that the fallen is immortal and rainwater can hurt him. The protagonist couldn't be sure of the girl's words, so the protagonist asked the guys to tell about the fallen one. The commander explained that his body is festering and his strength and speed are not much, but his regeneration is at a terrible level. The protagonist asked if all the wounds healed instantly, and the captain remembered that he was also injured during the rain. The protagonist assumed that the only thing that could kill the monster was rain. The protagonist thought about how he could make the monster stay for a tedious time in the rain. The hero knew the terrain perfectly. It remained to come up with a plan. Time was running out, and the hero decided to postpone this issue because the information was lacking. The main character couldn't understand the meaning of the words about there being lies and truth in words and thought about it. A little while later, the guys started to leave the cave. The bald man asked what they had found, and the commander said that they had reached a dead end. The protagonist thought, and after a little thinking he realized that the rain was stomach acid. The commander asked what they should do. The hero pointed in one direction and said that the monster had already arrived. Behind the tree was a monster that had killed 2 members of the guy's team in the past. The system explained that the fallen was level 4 and had the Dunler mutation. The enemy had incredible regeneration, but because of this, strength and speed were very reduced. The system told a bit about the fallen one, namely that he could be described as a man who healed to save the sick. The hero pondered on what the enemy's weakness was. He had clues, and all he had to do was find the truth. The captain asked what they should do, and the hero said that the fallen man was not moving because of the acid rain. The protagonist explained that they were in the same situation and could do nothing. The commander said that the enemy will come at them as soon as the rain is over. Later, the commander thought that Constantine was a professional, and that he would have no problem defeating the fallen. The system said that the commander saw a ray of hope in the hero. The protagonist said that for now, they would play hide and seek with him. The protagonist said one person should do the fallen man, and the commander asked who. The hero turned to the man and said that this task would be on him. The man said that maybe if there was no confusion interference he could do it, but this way it would be problematic. The hero said he wasn't going to do it twice, it would be the captain. The protagonist said that the teleportation disc is in his possession, that is safe. If they want to get it they have to follow the hero's instructions. The protagonist said that the confusion hindrance is the easiest to deal with. The hero explained how to adapt to this hindrance. The other team members felt as if the hero knew everything in the world. 5 minutes passed, and the commander was able to figure it out, and said he would take on the fallen man. He didn't know how long he would be able to hold the monster back. He promised only that he would do his best. At last the captain asked if Constantine was sure that he could take them all out. The protagonist said that there could be no other options. The rain began to stop. After a moment it disappeared completely, and the sky became clear. The commander headed towards the monster, which immediately began to attack. While the commander was holding back, the fallen hero led the other members of the squad. The protagonist said he wouldn't let anyone die, though the real reason was the condition of this dungeon. The protagonist assumed that people have their own secrets, but it was only more interesting to him because on the chessboard field it seemed to him that he was really playing chess with the same teacher. At that time on the lower floors people were watching the stream. People were very unhappy because not even a voice could be heard. People complained that it was not interesting without sound and demanded to change the channel. They complained that the program was terrible and a girl was watching it. She was shocked by what she saw. She was very nervous because of the actions of the heroes, because without the fallen people are bored, and there is no sound. A man came up to her and asked if she was responsible for the broadcast. The girl started to get nervous, but admitted it. People started chanting for the channel to be changed. At that time even the team was disappointed, even the sponsor, and the girl who organized it was the most worried. She apologized to the person who came. On the request to give the stream another 5 minutes, the man said that it is impossible because the rating is just terrible. The girl started begging for another 5 minutes. At that time some men rushed in. They tried to stop him, but he managed to shout that he could help with the sound on the air. He asked to be given one chance. It couldn't get any worse. The man was approached to deal with him. He said that he would fix the sound and the program would become more interesting. The girl was very happy about such a thing and said she would give the guy a chance. The girl asked for a guy named Constantine. After a moment, a sound began to come through the speakers, and the voice of the hero was heard, saying that they needed to find shelter. People started to return to normal after the sound came through. The hero said that according to the informant in this place hidden treasure. The voiceover man voiced the hero. He started talking about the treasure, and that they could get rich. The girl was surprised that one person could make so many sounds.
Inside the cave, the team explored the surroundings, and the system indicated that this place was a stomach. Bai's friend complained that the book didn't make sense, and they went from one dead end to another. The system knew that the contents were the Dundler Bible, and that the hero would need the next level to understand the contents. Bai was offered to read the strange book, but he refused, explaining that they needed to gather more information about the cave. Bai asked the man to hurry because it was about to rain, while the girl was worried about Constantine, who was distracting the boss. Bai promised that the man would be fine and ordered him to hurry up because they had to hide before it rained. Bai decided to think. He thought that he had been in 2 areas before, the ruins of a city and an abandoned hospital, which were similar to the real world. While this world was more like a chessboard, he thought that this place was one big stomach and tried to guess the role of the monster in this place. At that time, Constantine had finished fighting the monster and started to run away at the last moment when it started to rain. The monster was pinned to the ground. The acid rain tore its body apart. The enemy started screaming in pain and rage, and it was heard by the guys in the cave. Bai assumed that Constantine was fine since the monster was hit by the rain. Bai thought that it couldn't be that simple, as the loophole left by the hunter had been left on purpose, so the truth had yet to be discovered. At that time, at the headquarters of the 7th Intelligence Corps, the captain's phone rang, informing him that the case he had requested had been solved. The girl said that Bai would probably become famous, but she couldn't have bodyguards outside the tower. The captain asked if the girl had anything else to say. The girl started to talk about how she had to get her best successor to help Bai with the stream. She asked how the captain would compensate her if something happened. She was amazed that the guy would do so much for Bai, knowing him so little. She even suggested that the captain really liked boys. The captain ignored such a statement and said he would tell his man to contact Yawaimin. The girl heard the word "my husband" and asked the captain who she was. The captain said that the girl was just a tool and hung up without letting her answer. At that time, the guys in the cave stopped abruptly. They saw a tree house in front of them. Bai went inside and ordered the bald man to keep an eye on the situation. Bai was pleased with the way things were going, for he was eager to separate the boys. The system told him that there was something in this place that would help him pass the first level. It explained that this time, the hero could pick up all 3 items, but 2 of them would lead him in the wrong direction. One of the items was a teleportation disc, which the girl was incredibly excited about, while Bai realized that using the wrong item would most likely result in death. Bai wondered why there were so many people in this place. The hero was faced with a difficult choice: to act passively, so that his comrades would die when the game needed them, or to act actively, sacrificing people himself to achieve the desired scenario. The guy seemed very interested. He asked the girl if she wanted to leave this cursed place. The answer was logically that she did. Bai asked if the girl would leave if all the others died. She asked if Bai would be able to save them all. He decided to be blunt. If he could only save one, it should be the girl. The girl became visibly nervous, so Bai grabbed her shoulder and asked her to answer a question. He asked which item was the most important: a teleportation disc, a negative emotion suppressant, or a haunt to protect against acid rain? The girl ranted that all the items were important, and the zones could be used to try to lure the monster into the rain. She said that a disc wasn't that important, because then only one person could leave. Bai thought so, and now of all the important clues, only the notepad was left. Bai easily realized that this was a logical problem. The disc could not be a continuation of the scenario, and he thought that the probe was the item they needed. The only condition for victory was that the rain could really kill the fallen. Bai thought about the fact that the monster was too strong for his class. It seemed like the teacher had something to do with it all. Bai asked the girl how her room was. She didn't understand at first, but when the guy asked her to pay attention to how clean the room was, the girl started to guess. Bai started to explain that the condition of the room made it seem as if the monster had never been here. He thought about whether that meant that it couldn't get in or didn't know about this place. He started to think about the fact that the monster couldn't see the safest place and that it loved to enjoy the desperation of its victims. The girl started to understand, and Bai answered that the rain couldn't kill the monster. At that time, all the events were broadcast on the screen, with the voice of a guy who acted so realistically that no one even suspected that it was a voiceover. He did not say the things that were in reality, but on the contrary, it interested the audience even more and drew more and more of their attention. The girl was just thrilled with how talented the guy was playing this role. She asked the man about the statistics, and he explained that the interest had stabilized and was actively growing. The guy announcer continued his hard work, while the girl rejoiced, because at this rate, her ether will definitely get to the top. Although the events in real life were not so colorful, thanks to the charisma of the announcer, who embellished as he could. At that time, Bai wondered if Yang Zhen had received the confusion debuff. He couldn't understand why the man would lie about the mood change. Bai thought about the disintegration debuff. which was actually to subjugate a person to the will of the fallen, the guy made a decision, namely to take the drug. He threw the umbrella and the disc to the girl. Bai was determined to mislead the monster by using the two items. The protagonist was left with the last and most important question. If the rain is not able to kill this monster, then what is? The girl was worried that they wouldn't take the medicine, but Bai explained that they would use it right away. At that time, it started to rain. The bald man hid under the house and started cursing a lot. He realized that the monster couldn't be killed, and thought about the fact that the disc wouldn't go to him. The man grabbed his head and began to have intrusive thoughts that turned him against Bai. The hero's assumption that the man had received the corruption debuff was correct, and he lost control. Bai arrived in time and used his syringe. After administering the drug, he ordered the man to stop making up nonsense. Bai was glad that they had managed to get rid of the debuff, but now they had to move on. The man thought about this drug, because if they could produce it en masse, scouting parties could go to the Violet Zone. The girl asked if the man was better, and the bald man said he was wondering if the boys had taken the drug from upstairs. The girl said that Bai had figured out how to use the drug at a glance. The man was afraid of the protagonist's knowledge, and he began to think that even though they had lost two comrades, one Bai was much better than the two together. At that time, the hero himself thought that they were missing just one puzzle that would finally solve the problem of this place. Bai thought that the area was like a chessboard, with a strong monster on one side and weak allies on the other. He thought that there might be hidden memories in the writing. Bai realized that even though he had a rough idea of where things were, he was still missing a key that would allow them to deal with the monster. The system told the hero that there was indeed a skeleton in the place he was thinking about. The system told the hero that the enemy was incredibly angry, that the boys were not desperate enough to make their meat tasty. Bai realized that if they didn't find a way to kill the monster in 10 minutes, they might all be finished. The system told of a path that could only be traveled by killing the monster, and it also told of a secret cave where there was a way to destroy the monster. Bai ordered his companions to leave as the rain had stopped. When asked where they were going, Bai told them to just follow him. At that time, the hero thought that the monster had a very bad past, as he wanted to heal to save more people. At that time, the man with the spear was hiding behind a tree. He was very worried that the acid rain did not kill the monster. It was not the first time he tried, but it was all in vain. The monster began to speak, saying only that the rain would kill the man, not him. The man was shocked by this outcome, and the monster said that the taste of the prey its master was waiting for had changed. The man was shocked that the speculation that the monster was deliberately toying with the prey was true. The monster said that this place was a chessboard, and he was just a pawn of his master. And looking at the man with an eerie look, the monster asked, "Who is he?" The man immediately realized the situation and began to run away, while the monster did not run after him, but just began to laugh. The man ran with all his might, while the monster said that wherever the guys do not run, they will not be killed by him. In the middle of the jungle, there was a strange building. Bai took his team there. Inside this building, they felt some kind of entity. They thought about what it could be. One of the assumptions was that it was a trap. Bai himself had a terrible premonition. He thought about how to influence the outcome. The hero also felt that the monster was the ultimate evil, and he soaked up hatred for humanity. One thing the system couldn't understand was why these scum were so weak. Bai decided to go to the creepy room. As he thought that all the secrets were hidden there, he ordered his companions to stay put. Bai began to enter the dark room. Already inside there were candles that lit the way. Bai learned from the system that there was a man hidden inside the box. From this box came a voice asking if it was a monster. Bai assumed that the person in the box was the teacher. Now Bai was sure that somewhere in this room was the monster's weak spot. Bai started to read the book left on the box. It told that the monster was only half a year older than Ilya. Also, the book told about the masterpiece that amazed the teacher. By reading these notes, assumed that the teacher lived in the Violet Zone, and maybe even in the Red Zone. The book told that the monster was separated from the child, and at the end there was a riddle. Namely, what kind of person is able to live two lives? The answer was in the document. The teacher himself said that with this information, Bai Wu would be able to get close to him. This time, when the hero opened the book, a report began before the memories were opened. and as soon as the counter reached 1, the memories began to play. On February 19, 2017, the enemy spoke to a child and said that one would sacrifice one's life to save others. The boy thought that despite the pain, people would be grateful to him. After a while, he met a nurse who was good as a doctor. They did not hate the boy, and it pleased him. The girl told the boy that he could ask the doctor anything he wanted, but the boy could not understand one thing, namely, why the girl was a little sad. At the boy's request, the doctor was incredibly surprised, but as the nurse explained to him, the boy said nothing. The doctor cured a large number of people, which pleased the boy. He could not understand why the nurse was still sad. The boy had been on the operating table for many days, and the doctor's face was not good because the alchik was growing too slowly. The boy began to be accused of heisism because he wasn't growing, but he was really trying because he wanted to save as many people as possible. All the boy could think about was how to heal faster. The boy was a little hungry and said that he was weak and didn't want to undergo an operation, and the enemy looked at him with a stern look and told the boy that they had to save more people as soon as possible, otherwise they might die. The boy did not want people to die. Time passed, and the boy was given a rest. He missed the nurse very much. His teeth, eyes, and tongue were taken away, so he needed time to recover. After a while, the doctor reminded the boy that he had to sacrifice himself to save others. Despite the pain, the boy felt it was the right thing to do, and he had to do it. The doctor's face changed, and the boy realized he had said something wrong. The enemy was angry and left, and the boy could not ask for anything. The boy was in deep despair because he could not be better and save more lives. After a while, the doctor was in a good mood and praised the boy for saving many people. Although the doctor was incredibly happy, the nurse seemed very upset. The nurse approached the capsule where the boy was and said that she wanted to celebrate the new year with him and eat something delicious. She was upset that the man who had saved so many lives was locked in a tank, and the boy wondered if the people who had saved him remembered him, and he was incredibly happy that he was remembered and loved. The nurse said goodbye to the boy, and the boy could not understand why he would return from the surgery. Now the doctor did not answer the boy's questions and began to cut his forehead. Now the doctor was not cutting out organs, but cutting out the boy's brain. After a while, the boy woke up in a tank, and the doctor continued his standard brain suturing, while the boy noticed that the nurse was just crying outside the office window. After a while, the boy returned to school. The teacher was happy, but the boy did not like her looks. The boy did not understand why they looked at him with sympathy. He was cured after all. After the exam, the teacher was very happy and asked the boy if he wanted to participate in the Olympics. He was not against it, because all his life he did everything for people. After a long time, the boy sat in school and thought that he was still as bored as ever. He had a dream in which he returned to the hospital, where he was lying on the operating table, and next to him was a man who looked unbelievably like him, and it seemed to the boy that the man was calling him. After a while, the dream began to repeat itself more and more often, and the boy woke up in terror, as if the dream was forcing him to search for something. At school, on the roof of the boy, confessed his love to a girl. She was always running after the guy tail, and he treated her politely. Although she was really disgusted with the guy, he did not understand why he liked her. They are almost not communicate. The guy was happy because the girl didn't even realize that she was just food for him. Several of his organs failed, and he had to have an operation, and he was afraid that he would not be himself after the operation. He kept dreaming about him, only a little different. He thought they were one, and the boy wondered if the boy really existed. He asked his mother about it, and she explained that the boy's organs were from different people, and he shouldn't think about it. The guy was disgusted by the presence of this girl. When he saw a stray cat, the girl said it was disgusting. At that time, he posted a lot of pictures with animals in his feed. She assumed she was the guy's girlfriend, but he just thought about it. What's it like to eat people? The man from the boy's dreams started to look clearer. He was crying because no one loves him, and all the words said to him were a lie. The boy was always the best, so he had a lot of attention. Others wanted to get close to him, and he hated those people. They met in dreams, the other boy cried and complained, and sometime later, the girl dragged the boy to the infirmary to kiss him. There he accidentally bit her lip and began to drink her blood. The boy enjoyed it until the girl jumped. She looked at the boy in horror, and the boy did not understand what this look meant because she said she loved him. The boy's father paid the money and scolded the boy for what he had done, and the boy was very sorry that he had eaten so little. He was glad that he no longer had to look at the girl's face, and gradually, the boy began to feel that something was awakening in him, and it seemed that he could find the meaning of life. The psychologist was a very interesting man. His name was Cain. He started to call the boy the name of the monster Dundler, and told him what a naughty child he was. The boy thought that the names given by the man were very strange, but it all began to seem very interesting to him. For his birthday, the boy got a car, but he was bored with it. In his dream, he became friends with the white-haired boy again, but he realized that he would soon be forgotten again. After lunch, the psychologist suddenly appeared near the boy's house. He said he wanted to talk to him, and it turned out that the man knew about the boy's birthday and decided to make him a present. He took the boy to the parking lot where he opened the trunk of the car, in which there was a bag from which came a woman's crying. The man asked the boy if he liked his present, but he didn't. The boy was just thrilled. Within a year, Cain became the boy's mentor. He told the man about the dream, and the man in turn shared the information that it was real. He told that there were 2 boys, and the other one was now suffering terribly. The purpose of the boy's existence was to repay that debt. After a while, more and more people began to mutate. They found strange creatures called the Fallen. Although the boy was a little afraid, but Cain gave him courage. He realized that he was a natural predator, and humans along with the Fallen were his prey. The boy wanted to save the other, but Cain explained that he was too kind to the world now, so they should wait. At that time, the number of the Fallen continued to grow, but they had not yet reached the point where they were a threat to humanity. The teacher took the boy to see the Fallen and hunt the humans. The boy didn't know which side Cain was on, but the boy continued to go with the man, believing in his teacher. After a while, the changes in the boy's body could not be hidden. Because of the changes, the boy already doubted if he was a human being. At that time, the teacher asked the boy if he should strive to be human. Everyone around the boy finally showed their true selves. They were afraid of him, which only brought him misfortune. The boy realized that he already belonged to the monsters, but in his opinion, the faces of these people were much more disgusting. After a while, a masked type appeared in the city, which made the boy angry. When the boy was about to be put in a mental hospital, Cain saved him and told him to wait for the masked man to die and go and save the other boy. The mutation rate started to rise. People tried to run away from everything. At that time, the masked man disappeared, and the boy was just glad that only strong monsters were left. People were always fighting among themselves for supplies. There were even organizations that created safe houses, and Cain said that this world would last 3-4 years, and after that it would be hard to find people outside the tower. He explained to the boy that if he wanted to live outside, he would have to become a fallen man. He and his teacher moved to the central hospital of the city. He had wanted to see his other self for so long, and finally, it could happen. At that time, another boy got out of the tank. He started walking towards the open door. No one knew or liked him. He thought he was saving people's lives. But no one cared about him. The boy screamed and called for a nurse, but it turned out there was never a nurse. Finally, the diary memories ended, the system assuming that Bai had already figured out what was going on. Bai began to realize that the fall of mankind began with environmental changes. The monster had a human talent, namely infinite nirvana. The boy was only seen as an object to earn money, so he was dismembered many times and his memory was erased. But there was a change when another child saved the future monster with his organs. A good man lived in a horrible world where no one loved him and no one cared. Even when everyone rejected the boy, he did not feel hatred, he just continued to be a man. The hero thought that evil lived in an environment that almost everyone knows. Perhaps the boy would not have reached such a place without the influence of Cain. It seemed that Bai Wu had an epiphany and he realized the last mystery. Suddenly a message appeared saying that someone would reveal another secret to Bai Wu. It turned out that the other people had been sent to the plot for a reason. Bai Wu was shocked by this information. He got the idea that Cain had not fallen and was still living in the tower. The hero assumed that the enemy was trying to force him to make the wrong decisions to catch him. He assumed that the main weapon was not the monster, but him. Cain asked if the hero was ready to accept his mission, and Bai agreed without a doubt. He realized that Cain was wrong about one thing, namely that Bai's morals never mattered. The mysterious voice began to tell him that talent and mutation are similar abilities, but talent is stronger, but the number of people who can awaken the rare talent is very small. The people in the tower think that the higher the number of talents, the rarer they are. But in fact, there are special cases. Sometimes talents can unite, and even talents with high numbers can become powerful weapons. Bai wondered if this was similar to the combination technique. The voice told him that a 777th ranked Sorrow and Joy Drive talent could be combined with a 666th ranked talent to obtain the Possession of Destiny talent, in which case, one would gain an advantage by sacrificing the other. The system complained that people were already unlucky enough to have their talents taken away, and Bai suggested that the others probably knew about it. The voice started talking about how he had lured the guys into a trap by promising them an artifact and the ability to combine powers, but the owner of the 66th talent had been eaten by monsters in the beginning. It turned out that the guys used the combination of their talents to make holes and stole luck. Thanks to the luck of his companions, the man earned a good reputation. Bai remembered that even at their first meeting felt confident, and a reputation of a leader. Cain explained that luck is not omnipotent, because they are in the stomach of Dundler, and here, no luck will not help people. Cain estimated that the leader and his team had killed about 200 people. The mining team thought they were experienced enough to survive in dangerous situations. They thought they were the best, and Cain said that unfortunately for him, there were no ghosts in this world, and only the fallen existed. It turned out that all the people who died outside the tower turned into the fallen, but they couldn't go back into the tower. These people couldn't hurt anyone, and it didn't affect the leader's life. Other members of the team weren't clean either. They might not have known about these secrets, but they participated in the tasks. Cain said, whether the one who participated in the murder of a man was guilty or not. The last task was a choice. Soon the stomach juices would rise from the ground, and everyone inside would begin to digest in despair. To the west was a boat that would not be eaten by the gastric juices, but to get to it, Bai Wu had to jump through the trees, otherwise the rain would simply melt him. In the tray could fit a maximum of 4 people. Cain said that the hero can go alone, then the monster will continue his life, or save his comrades. But this is of course if Bai is not insane. Cain only said that he was looking forward to the hero's decision. Bai immediately began to ponder. In the way Cain spoke, he was similar to the teacher, but the guy was worried about how a man could live more than 700 years. Bai had an epiphany. He remembered talent number 42, which gave its owner near immortality. Bai assumed that Cain and the short man were the strongest beings he knew. The system reminded him that time was running out, and they should hurry. Bai assumed that this was all prepared on purpose. Bai realized that the teleportation disc could teleport him to the place he was before. Bai thought that the first place was the healing center. He assumed that all this information was addressed to someone on purpose. He assumed that Cain didn't know exactly who Bai was, but here was the little man, a completely different matter. Now it occurred to Bai that Cain wanted to eliminate the dwarf because he was the strongest on the lower floors and would have trouble destroying the tower. Bai understood one simple thing. Cain was not hostile to him, and the task prepared for Bai was to find out which type he belonged to. The hero could either save no one, or 1, 2, 3. Bai could already imagine Cain with a victorious face saying how obvious Bai's choice was. The system screamed because it had to visualize it too. Bai realized that even though the commander had to die, if he died as a hero now, people would remember him as a skilled miner, and the rest of us would never be able to rest. Only the law would be right to punish this man. Bai realized that all 3 of them had to survive because it would give him a clue about Cain. But if you took the 3, you couldn't take the man out of the box. The man began to shake the box, wondering if the person inside knew who Cain was and what his abilities were. Inside appeared a boy who was the second self of the monster. The boy asked who the hero was and where Dundler was. Bai decided to take a more interesting approach and make an unlikely choice. The system told him that this man was unhappy, so the monster kept killing for him. although they're the closest to each other, they're actually strangers. The boy saved the monster, and under Kane's guidance, he did a lot of terrible things. He killed people to make the boy happy. Bai finally realized what his choice should be. Bai said that he would call the boy Prometheus, and that Prometheus was a smart boy and never really lost his memory. Bai assumed that the boy thought something would change if he started over. Such words startled Prometheus, and he remembered the time when Kane had come to him and brainwashed him. Bai told him that the doctors had shunned the child and dug into his brain, hoping that he would forget everything. But in fact, the boy had forgotten nothing. Bai felt sorry for the boy. There was a nurse in the boy's memories, but she never existed. She was just another personality of the child. The hero realized that the boy couldn't have lost his memory because the nurse told him to remember. She remembered everything as well as the boy. But the boy still didn't get angry. Bai felt sorry for the boy and talked about the sad moments in his life. In the last episode, we returned to a place with a horrible monster that had an immortal body. After a while of searching, Bai was able to find out that Rain can't defeat this monster and went to another place to find a way to defeat it. It turned out that the monster was a boy who got his organs from another guy who had an immortal body, which was taken advantage of by the bastard doctor who sold his organs. The boy started to turn into a monster, even though he had a life that many could envy. At the time, the guy who had a horrible life continued to love people and do everything for their good. After Bai learned this story, he opened a strange box that contained the same kind boy, and he began to feel sorry for him. And here, you guys, under the last part, we haven't collected 500 likes, which makes me very upset. I hope this time we will be able to collect 200 likes, because I'm trying very hard. And I hope you like my efforts. I can't wait any longer. Let's go. Bai felt sorry for the boy, and said that he was sure that since the boy hadn't become a fallen man, he still hoped to be loved. He cheered the boy up and said that the monster was not his other side. At that time, the team started to call the boss to them. The commander said that they had no time left. At that time, the monster said that the transition to the next stage was complete, and they only needed to wait for Bai's choice. The monster was very eager to see people kill each other. At that time, the hero said that the boy had been sleeping in the tower all the time. Kane had deceived not only him but also the monster. Now the monster boy would never be able to return to the tower. Bai offered to go with him and stop this terrible monster, then leave this terrible place. The boy asked how the hero knew all this. At that time, Bai said that the boy could trust him completely. He promised the boy to be able to walk around and be free. Bai promised that the boy's life would change from today. The boy was very worried that Bai did not exist and was afraid that he would disappear as soon as they left the place. The boy was very worried that Bai would leave him like the others, but he promised to take the boy back as soon as he stopped the monster. The boy explained that the monster hadn't listened to him for a long time. Bai realized that it was Kane's influence, manipulating the children so that they couldn't understand each other. Bai told the boy to tell the monster one thing, and then told him to follow him. As they left the room, the boy's eyes blinked in the bright light. Suddenly, the team came to Bai Wu and started asking him if he had found out anything. At that time, the protagonist noticed an enemy who used telekinesis to become invisible. Bai understood that everything around him was a monster's body. He couldn't understand who the monster was fighting. After all, there were weaknesses in the first and second stages. The monster's pathology seemed like an eternal wound. Bai Gun understood how the Fallen One was able to transform into a huge area and kill all the level 7 prey, but he didn't understand what a level 9 mutated Hong Yin was like. When the commander asked about the child, Bai replied that there was no time to explain it now. Bai used his tool to climb up the tree with the boy. Bai ordered the others to follow him, as it was not safe to stay on the ground. The boys decided to follow the main character. The team asked Bai where they were going, and he said they were heading west, where there was a boat that could take them away. The guys were moving at high speed towards the boat, when suddenly, the bald guy yelled at his ally to be careful and grabbed his hand. Looking down, the guy saw that acid rain was starting to ooze out of the ground. Bai told the guys to be careful and wished that they wouldn't fall, because if they did, all the hero's work would be wasted. As the team fled, the commander thought that Bai must know something about the treasure the rich man had ordered. so he decided to keep an eye on the hero. The man remembered that 2 days ago, he had been visited by an incredibly rich man who had offered him a huge sum of money to get some treasure from this place. The rich man died that night, and the man took the gold slides and decided to look for the treasure himself to sell. The man asked the hero why this was happening, but Bai seemed to ignore the man's questions. A guy from the team asked what kind of bag was on Bai's shoulders, but it disappeared after a moment. The guys were shocked by this. They assumed that the hero had spatial powers. The system laughed at them because the hero's bag was actually a jingling bag that could move inanimate objects up to 20 kilograms. Bai was upset because he wanted his rice cooker to be a jingling bag. Bai wondered if the talents of 777 and 666 would merge, and was asked if they would drown as the acid level increased. Bai explained that they were in the stomach of the monster, and promised to answer all questions as soon as they left the tower. The commander was shocked by this information, and the others were afraid to imagine how huge the monster was if its stomach was so huge. The boys went to Bai because otherwise they would die, and the hero decided to investigate the connection between the boy and the monster. The boy called out to Dundler, and he seemed to respond, causing a pillar of acid to rise from one spot. The commander miraculously managed to grab onto a tree and escape death. The man was very angry because this liquid was very unpredictable. Bai seemed to notice something, and then he called the other guys over to him and asked for an umbrella. It started to rain, and the hero used the umbrella to cover everyone else. This downpour was too strong, much stronger than before. They couldn't take a step in this downpour, and Bai realized that the acid would dissolve them in about 10 minutes. The boy started to writhe in pain. Bai told him not to be afraid and to tell the monster what he thought. The monster was also in pain. The teacher had talked to the monster earlier and warned him that an investigator was coming to the place. The monster asked about his other self, and Cain said with a grin on his face that if everything went according to his plan, the other boy would become a monster. Cain promised the monster that he would stay with the boy forever and that they would both be fallen. The boy started hitting the ground, screaming that his friend never wanted people to die, and the white-haired man felt very sorry for his friend. One of the team members suggested that they would be finished soon. A man begged for a disc, but Bai asked him to stay calm. Bai looked at the boy and assumed that it would be over soon. The hero thought that it was time for the man to pay for his terrible deeds, but Qinlin was just a toy in the man's hands. At that time, in the monster's mind, the evil boy was apologizing for what he had done. He was poking and prodding because no one loved him. Prometheus came from behind and told the monster that it was okay. He said there were definitely people in the world who could love it. Bai assumed that the child had probably been maimed during the operation because he didn't feel any hate. Prometheus told him about Bai and that he was leaving with him, and Dundler threw a tantrum because he didn't want the boy to leave. Prometheus pushed the boy away and begged him not to go. The commander yelled at the hero that they would soon be finished, but his thread was interrupted by the boy, who begged the monster to let him pass. The boy said he didn't want to live in a hospital anymore, he wanted to live like a human. After these words, it became clear that the boys were shocked by this turn of events, but Bai was happy because the outcome was clear to him. The guys were still reeling from the fact that the rain had stopped, but what surprised them even more was that the acid levels were starting to drop. Baldy couldn't understand how one sentence from the kid could stop everything. He started to speculate. He couldn't understand where Bai was getting his information from. The team member asked if they were saved, but Bai upset the guys by saying that it wasn't the end. The trees started to grow a lot. Everything around them started to shake. The guys were stunned when a tree came to life in front of them. Bai said hello to the monster, and the monster stared intently in their direction. The monster asked why the hero didn't kill the other three and just leave with Prometheus. Bai said that the boy was the kindest, while the people behind him were horrible bastards, while Cain wanted the hero to choose, but he got lazy about it. The monster asked why they didn't deserve to die, and the hero just said it wasn't up to them. Bai said that wherever he was, he didn't like to complicate things, but the monster didn't understand that because it would be easier to just kill people. Bai said that a real lazy person would choose the justice system, which had been perfected over thousands of years. He said they should get rid of such ideas, and the monster looked at Bai and remembered his teacher. Bai reminded the monster that his teacher was a liar and his words could not be trusted, and Dundler said that if Bai didn't keep his promise, he would eat him. Bai reassured the monster, promising to show him that not all humans are evil. The monster said that Bai was special, too special, and warned that the teacher would definitely come for him. Bai was upset because he expected to get some information about Cain. The monster said he wouldn't tell because Bai would take away his best friend, to which he got the answer that they take away loved ones and shared friends. Bai continued to talk to the monster, which made him angry, and the monster told him to get lost and disappeared. Bai thought about the fact that he had already achieved something, while the others were happy that they had survived and everything was over. Bai gave the boy a teleportation disc and explained how to use it. This behavior started to annoy the rest of the guys. Bai said that he and the boy would bring help and ordered them to wait at this place. The boys tried to stop Bai, but the branches grabbed them. Bai finally said that he was not like the man, so not to worry, he would keep his word. The man was very upset that Bai knew everything. He realized that the treasure didn't exist, and it was all someone's plan, and the rich man himself definitely wouldn't die. The boy used the teleportation wheel, the system ran a report, the hero did well, and also got an ally that the system rated as SSR. Bai realized that after training, the boy would definitely become incredibly useful. Bai thought about the fact that he hadn't increased his strength much and wondered how he could make it grow faster. Bai also noticed the information about the pieces of the Doomsday Puzzle, and he was sure that the other pieces were in worse areas. Bai had an incredible amount of questions, but he was sure that he was not allowed to follow Cain's plans. The boy said goodbye to his friend and thanked the monster for taking care of him. The friend said that if the boy was hurt, he could come back at any time, but Prometheus said it would be okay. He said that Bai would come back for these people. The monster joked about planning to eat these guys, which made the boy a little angry. He said goodbye to his fallen friend again, his face starting to show a smile. The system asked Bai what he was going to do with the boy. He decided to let the boy join the intelligence corps, but then he would have to come up with another name. At that time, inside the tower, the first episode of the show was coming to an end, and after the end was announced, people started shouting that they wanted to know when the second episode would be. On the second floor of the tall tower, the Scout Corps division, the main character stood and listened to the short man talk about how the picture was disgusting, but he also said that he was good at memorizing. Bai said that he would like the boy to join their Scout Corps. The captain immediately asked what the reasons were. The boy listened attentively behind Bai's back, but the hero calmed him down and asked him to wait a bit. Bai went over to the captain, took a piece of paper and a pen, and started to write something. He briefly wrote where he had found the boy and what abilities he had. The commander started to look at it carefully, and Bai finished writing all the information. The commander read the paper carefully, and then lit a match so that this information would not be left behind. He asked the hero to keep the information secret. The system praised the hero for providing the information perfectly, just as it should be. When asked why Bai had told him about the boy's abilities, he recalled that as soon as they arrived at the tower, the system had rejoiced for the boy, who would finally be able to meet people. The system also told him that the boy also had a secret that the people on the 6th floor were interested in. Bai realized that when he first met Shorty and Yin Shuang, they had the same message. Their talents were up to 100. Bai assumed that the higher floors were looking for people with rare talents. Bai assumed that they wanted to get rid of such people, so Bai told the commander about the boy's ability to hide it from the public. Bai asked if the runt had heard of Cain, who looked more like a member of a sect, but the runt had never heard of this man, so Bai could only speculate without an answer as to who Cain really was. For some reason, the hero was reminded of Magneto. He assumed that Cain fought for the rights of the fallen. That's why they respected him so much. He assumed that Cain wanted to destroy the tower. Bai wanted to avoid Cain for a while. At that time, the little man asked the boy's name. He introduced himself as Prometheus. The commander said that the name was too long and needed to be changed. The boy was upset because he liked the name. The commander explained that he could use the old name in the dress-up games, but for the Corps, he needed a new name. The new name for the boy was Bai Xiaoyu. The system laughed and said that the little boy had a talent for making up names, even joking that the next one would be named Bai Xiaofeng. The commander had made up his mind. He said that the boy couldn't accept the mission from anyone else, and he understood. The commander also asked that the identity of the hero not be revealed. Bai realized that sooner or later, people would find out that the character he had created was Constantine and the intelligence corps at the same time. Bai left the boy to the captain and warned that Kane would most likely find out. The boy said that the little uncle was very strong and that he was safe around him. Bai was incredibly happy because if Kane found out about the boy, he would think that the little man was at the scene of the accident. The captain said he would help Bai, but they could only hope that the girl could be trusted. Bai asked if the captain had any further instructions. The small man told Bai to take an apprentice and said that they had attracted the attention of the higher levels with their report. That was good, but the men of the straitjacket weren't happy about it. Bai wondered what they were unhappy about, and the short man told them about the case on the 3rd floor, and because of their success, 4 people from their corps would be sent to the case. They would participate in the investigation with the best team. Bai realized that they had been looked down upon before, but if they succeeded, the reputation of the Pacification Corps would go down. Shorty said that they had a lot of talented people. Even though the case was half solved, no one would give them information. The commander talked about how if they failed, it would all be for nothing. Bai asked if he would have a chance to go to the 3rd floor, and he did, but there were 2 days left of Bai's leave, after which they would go to the 3rd floor. Bai was very happy to have a chance to get out of the tower one more time, and then he said goodbye, and the boy said goodbye. The doors slammed shut, but opened again. Bai came back. He told about the 3 people left behind in the jungle, and the little man could only hold his head in his hands. The girl used her charm to ask if she was beautiful. The guy could not hold back, and called her sister the most beautiful girl, and asked to calculate his salary. The girl did not back down, and offered to start a relationship. He agreed, and just as insistently demanded a salary, although the appearance was bad. In fact, the girl was furious. She planned to make the guy work for free. The girl had to use devious tactics, after which they both started lying on the ground. The guy turned to the girl. She had already asked how he could demand money from his girlfriend. The guy broke up with the girl and told her to calculate her salary. Now it was time for Plan B. She started talking about how they should see each other more often, and the guy said that they should, only for payment. And then the girl's heart couldn't take it. She remembered how this guy didn't seem to need anything at first, but as soon as the opportunity arose, he needed money. The girl had to put up with it, and they decided to discuss the man's schedule and salary. The system was shocked by the popularity of the show, but also very eager to see the person who had voiced it. The system asked Bai why he had asked to bring the boy in for questioning. The hero thought that the boy wasn't that bad. He didn't know about the atrocities his commander had committed. Bai assumed that this guy was the one who increased the chances of the bag becoming a Chinming. Bai arrived at the shop, where the dispute over the payment for the voice of the ether was taking place. The guy was talking about how if he was upset about his paycheck, it might affect his voice. Bai watched the guys closely. The girl compromised and decided to keep the amount the guy had mentioned. The girl finally noticed Bai. She told him that they were actually rich. At that time, the guy was happy to see his hero. Bai thought about the guy. He characterized him as simple and siren-like, but after a little closer look, he realized that it was an act, and most likely this person was sent for training. Bai said that his name was not Constantine, which is the character on the show, and he also warned that if he heard such a thing again, he would fire the boy immediately. The boy did not understand. He was told that the boss was interesting and easy to get close to, which turned out to be a deception. He was also intimidated by the hero's overwhelming aura. Bai praised the girl for her work and told the guys to get ready for the next broadcast as he was leaving the tower again. Bai said that this time, he wanted to increase his survivability. He wanted to increase his strength, because humans can be scarier than monsters. Bai asked if the short man had told the boy about the case on the 3rd floor. The boy didn't understand who Bai was talking about, and said he was talking about Gu Qingyu. The boy noticed this detail because even his lover couldn't talk about the short man like that. Bai told the girl that after he returned from the tower, he would have to investigate a case and take this guy as his apprentice. The girl was excited about the guys going to the 3rd floor, and she immediately decided to make a list of things she would like to ask for. Bai said that things from the third floor couldn't be bought so easily. The girl finished her list, the hero started to read the text, and the system joked that the girl knew about the preferences of her fish. Bai realized that the third floor was a factory, but what came after the third floor was left to others. The system was beginning to favor this kind of system, and Bai assumed that the first people to enter the tower had taken the highest floors and had been given the power to control others. The girl continued to talk, and the hero offered to add more to the list. She was glad, but she was afraid that it would be hard to carry everything. Bai calmed her down and set a limit of 20 kilograms. After a while, it was night outside. The hero put on his stream suit. By this time, his team was awake as well. They were on their way to the place to finally start the live broadcast. In the quiet city, a teleportation tower rose up. It was Bai who came out of the tower. The system told them about the place they had arrived at. It was a park of people. There were about 744 people in this place. The area the hero arrived in was actually purple. Bai realized that with so many fallen, this was the worst place to get a power boost, since he couldn't just stand there. Even though he knew that he had no choice but to be here, he remembered a moment in the past when his father had said that animals were like gods to humans. He had also said that maybe one day they would be raised in cages. Bai thought that those words might be true now. He suggested that the tower was no different than the zoo. The system started to say that it was true and said that Bai's father was strange. Not only because of the zoo with humans, but also because of the way Bai had masterfully made Ilya suicidal. Bai thought about Cain being weaker than his own father. Bai assumed that in this place, animals watched over humans. Bai thought that since all the fallen were animals, the asylums were useless in this place. Bai decided to find the records. There would be nothing on a silver platter. People complained because they wanted to see the battles on the air, and every time Bai met a monster, people chanted for him to fight. The system told about the fallen that the hero saw. It was level 2, and although Bai could survive a fight with 2 of them, 3 of them would kill him. The system advised the hero to retreat, and he did so, while the people on the air were puzzled that the fallen did not attack Bai. The broadcast was watched by a man who was considering investing in the hero. He asked his subordinate to arrange a meeting. While Bai was looking at something and thinking about what to do next, he looked at the map of the place where he was, but suddenly his attention was drawn to something on top. It was a level 3 fallen who had a rare mechanization mutation. Suddenly, Bai noticed the smell of machine oil. Everything around him began to shake. It was a fallen with the same mutation as a bird. Bai thought that the area he was in was even more twisted. Now Bai couldn't imagine that humans could be fallen. Now that he saw the mechanized fallen, Bai realized that all his arguments were wrong. Bai was excited to find information about these fallen. The system told him to do whatever he wanted, but told him not to overdo it. Bai could only stay in this place and receive power, so now he had to find a safe hiding place. It turned out that due to the mysterious forces, the mechanism worked, and now the hero was on the cable car. Bai had to go to the second level, so Bai decided to turn off the airwaves to make it less boring. People started complaining that the airwaves were out, and the boy announcer asked the girl what to do. She assumed Bai had some plan, but an hour later, nothing changed, and even 2 and 3 hours later, the airwaves didn't start again. The girl started screaming and complaining because the airwaves wouldn't start. Suddenly the waves started. Bai received an incredibly nasty debuff called Bloodlust. If he was not engaged in combat every 12 minutes, Bai would receive a random debuff. The system joked that this was a setback after 2 incredible successes, and Bai realized that if he didn't fight, instead of 1 debuff every 4 hours, he would get 1 every 12 minutes. Bai realized that the beginning was just disgusting. He came out of his hiding place. Now Bai went to investigate the place. Bai crouched down on his knee and decided to look around to see which way he should go. The system started telling him about the directions and the dangers that awaited him. As Bai thought about where to go, the system told him about a much more dangerous place. Bai realized that this area was definitely purple and that it was not the right way. To the east was a resting place. To the south was a power station. There were only 4 directions, but there was no information about their usefulness. Bai decided to choose the way himself and decided to go east. There should be many resting places in this place. The hero assumed that there should be some information in these places. The system told the protagonist that there was good news and bad news for him. The good news was that there was a Chinling telescope in this place, and the bad news was that Bai would not be able to get it. The system also told him about the second bad news, which was that there was a sleeping fool in the same place. Bai realized that he had 7 minutes to get the debuff, but he wanted to at least see the effect of the telescope. At that time, the hero realized who the system was talking about. It was a fallen man who was limping at his workplace. The system said that the hero did the right thing by not interrupting the animal's sleep. At that time, Bai noticed an interesting brochure. The system said it was a preview of the next episode. Assuming that the circus group was from another area, Bai decided to go up and look for something interesting. He saw an inscription that was many years old. Bai remembered that God knows what started back then, but the fallen had started early, so when the animals were mechanized, they were fed oil. Bai had only 4 minutes left before the next debuff. It turned out that the telescope was able to show a weakness of the enemy. The protagonist gave a lot of information, but often it was random. But the telescope gave information about only one weakness of the creatures the protagonist was looking at. The system gave information that the place the hero was looking at had a fallen creature. Killing it would give him the 799 wave interference talent, and the monster's weakness was fire. Bai wondered if it was just an instinct to be afraid of fire, or if it was something else. Bai tried to take the telescope, but it was all in vain. The hero was frustrated that he couldn't take the telescope for himself. Bai realized that he had to run and start a fight with the fallen man in the remaining time before the debuff. The man ran towards the house, accompanied by the screams of the system, which begged the hero to stop. Bai arrived immediately, and a huge beast started running towards the hero, but it was stopped by the doors because the structures are not so easy to break. Now the hero had 12 minutes left and was about to go to the next location. After 3 minutes, the hero looked at the toilet. From there, he could see a part of the monster. It was a huge snake, which also had a mutation like the others. Bai thought about the fact that the talent he could get would interfere with the mechanics. With this ability, Bai could easily hide his identity in the tower. That was the reason why he needed this ability. Bai realized that it wasn't that easy, because if he tried to set fire to the oil in the building, he would get hurt. Bai realized that he didn't have to be so single-minded, so he decided to think of a better way. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm glad there are people who watched my video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will keep trying to make good videos. Good luck and all the best. See you next time.